Chapter 444. Hearing the name of the blood-sickle slaughterer, the faces of the sky-rich Imperials turned ashen. At the front of the blood-winged bird was a skinny man holding a blood sickle. He was like the representative of the god of death, as he floated in a blood-colored ripple. That intense bloodthirsty aura spread through the sky, causing one's heart to palpitate with fear. I actually met this butcher. Does the heavens want me to die? The Third Highness' heart trembled, and his expression was filled with despair. In the current era of the Iron Dragon Alliance, the cloud area was like a pile of loose sand. All the countries and sects had submitted to them and didn't dare to say anything. Among them, the blood-sickle slaughterer was a famous executioner of the Iron Dragon Alliance. He was famous for killing, and if anyone disobeyed him, they would slaughter an entire city, family, or even a sect. Only Zhao Feng's expression didn't change as he lazily rubbed his left eye. The change in the god's spiritual eye started when I returned to the cloud area. As time passed, the swelling pain in Zhao Feng's left eye became more obvious. Even if he didn't use the god's spiritual eye, he would feel slightly uncomfortable. As for the blood-sickle slaughterer and company, he didn't even look at them. Zhao Feng's casual actions were noticed by the brown-robed Elder Jiang, and his eyes flashed with surprise. From the clash before, Elder Jiang guessed that Zhao Feng was at least at the true mystic rank. However, this was just a guess. If his guess was correct, as long as Zhao Feng was willing to help, they would at least be able to protect themselves. Although the blood-sickle slaughterer is strong and has the record of fighting against those at the true mystic rank, he hasn't reached the true mystic rank yet. Old Jiang's heart jolted, and his expression couldn't help but become eager and expectant. The only thing he was worried about was whether or not Zhao Feng would help. This was because the cloud area now belonged to the Iron Dragon Alliance. If Zhao Feng made a move, it would mean that he was fighting against the Iron Dragon Alliance, a monster that could cover the sky with one hand. Although the true mystic rank was strong, fighting against the Iron Dragon Alliance was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'll give you 10 breaths of time to consider. Surrender or be slaughtered. The blood-sickle butcher slowly descended from the blood-winged bird. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The other figures were like divine soldiers descending from the heavens, and they surrounded the people from the royal family of Sky Abundance with extremely experienced techniques. Old Jiang was uneasy, the third prince and the others were frightened, and most of their legs were trembling. Everyone had heard of the infamous name of the blood-sickle butcher. 10 breaths of time to consider had always been the style of the blood-sickle butcher. Surrender or slaughter them all. The blood-sickle butcher licked his lips. He enjoyed watching his enemies struggle in fear. His teasing gaze swept across the crowd, and he nodded slightly. The blood-sickle butcher's eyes suddenly focused on one person. Among the sky-rich royal family's crowd, a blue-haired youth looked lazy and tired, looking very out of place. There was no hint of fear in the young man's eyes, as if he was completely unaware of the current situation. If it was an ordinary person, then so be it. However, this youth's aura was like a bottomless abyss, emitting traces of coldness. True mystic rank. The blood-sickle butcher's heart shook in disbelief. The playfulness on his face was replaced by solemnity. When the 3 words true mystic rank came out of the blood-sickle butcher's mouth, Old Jiang let out a breath. After all, the blood-sickle butcher's cultivation had reached the peak true human rank, and was even stronger than the first elder of the Broken Moon clan. The blood-sickle butcher's strength was definitely at the peak true human rank, and he had even fought against those at the true mystic rank. His senses wouldn't be wrong. The sand lightly floated in the air. The scene was dead silent. The information was wrong. There's a true mystic rank amongst the survivors of the sky-rich royal family. The blood-sickle butcher's expression was extremely solemn, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The figures of the dozen or so members of the Iron Dragon Alliance surrounding them froze. In the cloud area, those at the true lord rank were the absolute rulers, and they could decide the fate of the world. Across the entire Iron Dragon Alliance, the number of true lord ranks could be counted on one hand. Putting aside the cloud area, even the Canopy Great Country only had a few true lord ranks. Every true lord rank could affect the balance of the Great Country. In the cloud area, True Lord ranks were even rarer, and they were extremely rare. This meant that the true mystic rank was the peak battle power under the True Lord rank and could dominate a region. It was hard to imagine that this youth had reached the peak of the cloud area at such a young age. May I ask for your name, and why you're helping the Sky-Rich royal family? The Blood Sickle Butcher was someone who had been through a lot and soon calmed his emotions. His eyes twinkled coldly and fearlessly as he stared at the carefree blue-haired youth. The Blood Sickle Butcher guessed that this blue-haired youth must have reached the true mystic rank not long ago. This meant that with his powerful battle power, he would at least be able to resist for a while. Of course, before that, he needed to test Zhao Feng's strength. Zhao Feng raised his head tiredly and said expressionlessly, "I'll give you 10 breaths to consider. Surrender or be slaughtered." The Blood Sickle Butcher's words were returned to him by Zhao Feng. Do you want to become enemies with the Iron Dragon Alliance? The Blood Sickle Butcher's expression was slightly ugly. If it wasn't for the fact that the opponent was a true mystic rank higher than him, the Blood Sickle Butcher would have tortured the opponent to death already. However, he didn't have any confidence of winning against a true mystic rank. Furthermore, the other side had Elder Jiang, an expert at the true human rank. 10-9. Zhao Feng's low voice was like a death note that made the hearts of the Blood Sickle Butcher and company jump. Elder Jiang, Third Highness, and company were overjoyed. They didn't expect the situation to change like this. A moment ago, they were waiting for the choice of surrender or death. The next moment, Zhao Feng casually turned the situation around. Furthermore, the invisible aura from Zhao Feng was extremely strong. Logically speaking, someone like the Blood Sickle Butcher shouldn't be shocked by a youth who had just reached the true mystic rank. However, for some reason, the Blood Sickle Butcher felt uneasy from his soul. Even those at the true mystic rank that he was familiar with couldn't give him such pressure. That kind of aura originated from the combination of strength, confidence, mental state, and many other aspects, and it invisibly caused others to submit to him. It was like those in power. Although they didn't have strong individual strength, their every action had an invisible aura. Zhao Feng had a similar aura. Thinking back to the Purple Saint ruins, there were dozens of true mystic rank geniuses that had died in his hands, and many of them were at the peak true mystic rank. Even the weaker True Lord ranks didn't have the ability to resist. 876. In Zhao Feng's eyes, the Blood Sickle Slaughterer was as small as an ant. This kind of thought was released from his body. Retreat, retreat. The Blood Sickle Butcher suddenly made a decision. It was instinct. There were 2 reasons why he retreated so decisively. Firstly, there were 2 experts at the True Spirit Realm, and one of them was at the True Mystic rank. His chances of winning were less than 30%. Secondly, the blue-haired youth gave him a strong sense of uneasiness. Being the butcher, he had a sense of life and death that normal people couldn't. Retreat, the Blood Sickle Butcher ordered, and the nearby members of the Iron Dragon Alliance instantly started to follow his orders. Then die. A cruel coldness flashed on Zhao Feng's face. Ring of lightning. He raised his palm and gently swiped it in the air. In a split second, streaks of green electric chains danced in the air within a radius of several hundred feet, like intelligent electric snakes. Xiao! Xiao! The arcs of lightning seemed to come to life as they circled around Third Highness and bit the members of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Arg! Blood-curdling screams rang out incessantly, rising and falling. Plop! Plop! Under the flickering arcs of lightning, the dozen or so members of the Iron Dragon Alliance were turned into charred corpses. In just a breath's time, apart from the Blood Sickle Butcher, everyone was killed. Killed in one move. The Blood Sickle Butcher's heart skipped a beat as his expression changed dramatically. Elder Jiang, Third Highness, and company who were standing next to Zhao Feng froze on the spot, and didn't dare to move under the terrifying aura of lightning. They originally thought that Zhao Feng's killing move would kill them all. However, Zhao Feng's attack passed between friend and foe, annihilating all of them. Elder Jiang could only look up to such control. The Blood Sickle Butcher knew that Zhao Feng wasn't a normal true mystic rank. Run! There was only one thought left in the Blood Sickle Butcher's mind. Zhao Feng's strength was more terrifying than he had imagined. In a head-on clash, his chances of winning were less than 30%. Furthermore, there was Elder Jiang. Xiao. The blood-sized slaughterer released a blood-colored flame under his feet as he ignited his chi of true spirit and flew through the air. No one knew what secret technique the blood sickle butcher used to increase his speed to the true mystic rank. The blood sickle butcher's technique seems to be related to the Moon Demon Palace. Seeing the blood-colored flames fly away, Zhao Feng's heart moved. He couldn't help but squint his eyes as he watched the blood sickle butcher leave. Elder Jiang was slightly anxious. It seemed that the blood sickle butcher was extremely wary of Zhao Feng. If Zhao Feng chased after him, he should be able to kill the blood sickle butcher. Once he let the blood sickle butcher escape, it would bring more danger to the rest of the journey. Elder Jiang, which clan did this blood sickle butcher come from? Zhao Feng was neither fast nor slow. Many of the members of the Iron Dragon Alliance come from the Cloud area, such as the 2 strong countries and the 13 countries. However, the Iron Dragon Alliance has the Scarlet Moon demonic religion behind them, and many of the core members come from the demonic religion. The Blood Sickle Butcher isn't from the Cloud area, and is most likely a member of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. Elder Jiang said deeply, Scarlet Moon demonic religion, Moon Demon Palace. Zhao Feng murmured in his heart. In order to confirm his guesses, he instinctively circulated his god's spiritual eye, and tried to see how the blood sickle butcher circulated. However, as soon as he circulated his eye power, the god's spiritual eye felt a swelling pain. Chapter 445. Zhao Feng rubbed his left eye helplessly. He wasn't used to not being able to use his god's spiritual eye at this stage. Old Zhang's eyes flickered as he noticed a certain detail. In that instant, he saw a blue light flash in Zhao Feng's left eye, as if it was just an illusion. Furthermore, this wasn't the first time that Zhao Feng rubbed his eye. Brother Zhao, the blood sickle slaughterer is extremely bloodthirsty. If we let him go, it'll be a huge problem for us. Old Jiang said solemnly. Seeing the scarlet flame in the sky getting further and further away, Senior Jiang felt worried and anxious. However, the blue-haired youth in front of him was still indifferent and lazy. Zhao Feng obviously understood the principle of eliminating the root of the problem, so he didn't show any mercy. This blood sickle slaughterer is just a small fish. If I can use him to lure out the core members of the Iron Dragon Alliance, Zhao Feng thought. To him, killing the blood sickle slaughterer wasn't difficult at all. If he wanted to attack, the blood sickle slaughterer wouldn't have a chance to escape. However, when Zhao Feng found out that the blood sickle slaughterer cultivation technique was related to the Moon Demon Palace, he changed his mind. Shua, shua. Only an afterimage of Zhao Feng was left behind, accompanied by arcs of lightning. Old Jiang and the others had their mouths wide open. The youth in front of them had already disappeared. Look! Third Highness and the others raised their heads and saw an azure bolt of lightning chasing after the blood-colored flame. Within the azure bolt of lightning, one could faintly see the outline of Zhao Feng's figure. His speed was slightly faster than the blood-colored flame. This Zhao Feng cultivates the power of lightning and specializes in speed. It looks like the blood sickle slaughterer won't be able to escape. Old Jiang let out a breath and had a gloating expression. At the same time, the blood sickle slaughterer had just used a secret technique to escape a mile or two when he suddenly heard the sound of wind whistling. Shit! He comprehended the laws of lightning. No, it's the profound meaning of wind and thunder. The blood sickle butcher's face was ashen, and he was extremely embarrassed. As Zhao Feng tore through the air, the sound of thunder was rapid, and a fierce gust of wind was stirred up, creating a powerful wind pressure. Regardless of whether it was the lightning cultivation technique or the wind cultivation technique, they were all extremely fast. When these two were combined, it would definitely be the top speed among those of the same level. In the past, the Wind Lightning Emperor had practiced the Wind Lightning Profound to the extreme. He was known as the fastest Great Emperor, and his battle strength was unparalleled. In his mind, the Tempest Tablet was damaged as before, and it was dim and deathly silent. It emanated an ancient aura, while the markings on its surface interweaved with each other, and it drew out boundless and deep meaning. Zhao Feng's consciousness merged with the ancient tablet and sensed a boundless world of wind and thunder. That world was as broken as the wind-thunder tablet. It was even fragmented. Bolts of lightning flashed across the sky. Death storms were brewing in the dark. With Zhao Feng's current realm, he could only sense a desolate corner of the world within the ancient tablet. The wind-lightning he had comprehended was only a few hundredths of the essence of the ancient tablet. The fusion of wind and lightning can create the fastest speed in the world. I've only comprehended it, but my speed has already surpassed my peak in the Purple Saint Ruins. While Zhao Feng was flying, a portion of his heart force merged with the wind-lightning tablet. He didn't use his full strength, or else he would have caught up to the blood sickle butcher long ago. Both the power of lightning and the power of wind were natural powers that Zhao Feng was familiar with. The lightly floating fairy, the lightning wind palm, the mystic flower manual, and the lightning inheritance that he had studied in the past were all related to one of them. It was because of this foundation that Zhao Feng chose the wind-lightning emperor's inheritance, and he could barely comprehend it now. In the sky, two figures, one in front and one behind, chased each other. Sometimes they circled the mountains, and sometimes they entered the forest. However, no matter how hard the blood-colored flame struggled, it couldn't break free from the azure lightning behind it. May I ask what your name is, and why you're enemies with the Iron Dragon Alliance? Even if you die, you have to let me know your name. The blood sickle slaughtherer's face was gray and filled with despair. The barrier between the true human rank and true mystic rank couldn't be easily broken. Even if the blood sickle slaughterer was an elite amongst his peers, he could only fight against a true mystic rank for a short amount of time or run. If this went on for too long, he definitely wouldn't be a match for a true mystic rank. Furthermore, the opponent this time had comprehended the power of wind and lightning. In terms of speed and stamina, he couldn't be compared to them. Relax, I won't let you die. A playful chuckle sounded in his ears, accompanied by the sound of thunder. The blood sickle slaughtherer's expression changed dramatically as he took in a cold breath. He knew that Zhao Feng's speed had reached him in an unpredictable way. Waning moon blood sickle. How could the blood sickle slaughterer give up? He burned his chi of true spirit and slashed out a heart-shaking blood blade that was like a crescent moon. In an instant, the sky was dyed red and a blood-colored aura filled a radius of 100 yards. This move was definitely the blood sickle slaughtherer's killing move. Half a year ago, he had used this move to injure a true mystic rank enemy and escape. Crescent moon blood sickle. Not good. This move is enough to threaten most true mystic ranks. Elder Jiang, who was more than a dozen miles away, saw the aura of this move. However, in the next instant a change occurred. The powerful blood-colored crescent moon trembled in the air, then suddenly collapsed and shattered into pieces. You. The blood sickle slaughtherer's face went pale and his body twitched. Wang, a slender and powerful hand pressed down on his shoulder, accompanied by an azure chi of true spirit. As expected, this skill is similar to the genius disciples of the Moon Demon Palace, but it's much cruder. Zhao Feng murmured in his heart. In the Purple Saint Ruins, Zhao Feng had killed many of the Moon Demon Palace's geniuses. After confirming the answer, bam! Zhao Feng flicked his finger, and a sharp beam of lightning pierced into the blood sickle slaughtherer's dantian. No! The blood sickle slaughterer screamed in fear and struggled. Half a breath later, his dantian was broken, and his meridians were broken. His face was filled with regret, and then he became dazed. From an awe-inspiring butcher who was feared by all, to a weakling who did not even have the strength to truss a chicken, this kind of setback was even more terrifying than death. Killing you is too easy. I'll cripple your cultivation, and let you feel the pain of being a weakling. Zhao Feng waved his hand, and threw the blood sickle slaughterer into the forest below. After doing all this, Zhao Feng didn't even turn his head, and turned into an azure beam of lightning that met up with Elder Jiang and company. Thank you, Brother Zhao. Senior Jiang and the others were overjoyed to have survived the calamity, and thanked him profusely. However, he was confused as to why Zhao Feng didn't kill the blood sickle slaughterer. After all, the blood sickle slaughterer would send news of Zhao Feng back to the Iron Dragon Alliance. It could be imagined that Zhao Feng would soon be hunted down by the Iron Dragon Alliance, which would cause a series of problems. Furthermore, Zhao Feng seemed to want to do this. Did he not know how strong the Iron Dragon Alliance was? Or did he still want to be enemies with them? Thinking up to here, Elder Zhang's heart moved. As the saying went, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If a monstrous genius like Zhao Feng could work with them, it would be great. Zhao Feng rubbed his left eye and looked in the direction of the 13 countries tiredly. The 13 countries were in between the two strong countries. In reality, the 13 countries weren't too far away from the two strong countries. Seeing that Zhao Feng wanted to leave, Elder Jiang panicked. Little friend, you've saved our lives. I can't repay you, so how can I not treat you? Since Brother Zhao has returned to the cloud area, you must know a lot of things. We can answer your questions. I believe that Elder Su of the Dragon Killing Alliance will be interested in you. Third Highness couldn't help but ask Zhao Feng to stay. Dragon Killing Alliance. Zhao Feng's footsteps paused. The members of the Dragon Killing Alliance mainly come from the sects that were destroyed by the Iron Dragon Alliance. Elder Su is the spiritual leader of the Dragon Killing Alliance and leads everyone to fight against the Iron Dragon Alliance. Third Highness explained. Right now, the Iron Dragon Alliance controlled the cloud area. The words Dragon Killing Alliance were obviously directed at the Iron Dragon Alliance, who could cover the sky with one hand. Zhao Feng smiled faintly and was about to refuse. Although he was interested in the Dragon Killing Alliance, it wasn't as tempting as returning to the 13 countries. However, just as he was about to speak, the pain from his left eye increased and exhaustion washed over him. Within the dimension of his left eye, ripples spread across the deep blue cold pool. Hidden waves surged within it, and traces of lustrous blue waves appeared. The pond seemed to be melting, and had reached a diameter of 99 yards. The god's spiritual eye has already entered the mutation stage. Could it be that it's comprehending the Wind Lightning Stone tablet? Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. At this stage, his cultivation was comparable to a half-step True Lord rank, and his mental energy level surpassed normal late-stage True Lord ranks. His soul power had also surpassed the peak True Lord rank. As long as he went into seclusion, he would be able to break through to the True Lord rank. However, the god's spiritual eye had also entered the mutation stage. Zhao Feng analyzed. He had 2 trump cards after returning to the 13 countries. They were the Jade Dragon Protection and the Earth Inheritance Divine Weapon, the Ice Imperial Spear. He originally had 3 trump cards, but the god's spiritual eye had entered the mutation stage. The most important thing right now is to let the god's spiritual eye pass the mutation stage. This is even more important than breaking through to the True Lord rank. Zhao Feng soon made his decision. With the god's spiritual eye, even if he didn't break through to the True Lord rank, he could still crush most True Lord ranks. In comparison, breaking through to the True Lord rank didn't increase Zhao Feng's strength much. After all, he was at the True Lord rank and could fight against normal True Lord ranks without the god's spiritual eye. Brother Zhao, what do you think? Elder Jiang had an expectant expression as he waited for Zhao Feng's reply. The Third Highness suddenly thought of something and said, My 9th sister, known as Princess Jean, is a famous beauty of the 2 strong countries and the #1 genius of the Sky-Rich country. She just came back from the sacred True Dragon gathering. I believe that a genius like Brother Xiao must have heard of the sacred True Dragon gathering and will speak the same language as my 9th sister. Chapter 446. As the Third Highness spoke up to hear, he couldn't help but feel smug. The peerless beauty of Princess Jean, along with the sacred True Dragon gathering, was enough to entice any youth. What disappointed him was that the tiredness on Zhao Feng's face increased, and he was only slightly surprised when he heard sacred True Dragon gathering, but didn't show much interest. If the Third Highness knew that this youth had not only participated in the sacred True Dragon gathering, but had also become an overwhelming prodigy, and one of the top prodigies of the sacred True Dragon gathering, who knew what he would think? Zhao Feng had never heard of Princess Jean after participating in the sacred True Dragon gathering. However, he had some impression of Princess Linyue from the purple rising great country. Of course, there were several thousand geniuses participating in the sacred true dragon gathering, and those that Zhao Feng had an impression of were at least in the top 1 or 200, or had fought with him before. Accurately speaking, only the top 100 true dragon geniuses could attract his attention and interest. For the current Zhao Feng, the sacred true dragon gathering was already a thing of the past and wasn't much of a challenge, so he obviously wasn't interested. At this point in time, the god spiritual I had truly entered the mutation stage, and the discomfort and tiredness in Zhao Feng's left eye increased. He stood on the spot, but wanted to sleep at any moment. I'm tired from the long journey. Thank you, everyone. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed with a smile. Hearing this, old Jiang, the Third Highness and company revealed expressions of joy. This was especially so for old Jiang. He was slightly curious as to why Zhao Feng would suddenly change his mind and travel with them. He could faintly feel that the change was related to the left eye that Zhao Feng was rubbing. Old Jiang's judgment wasn't wrong. Firstly, Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye had entered the mutation stage and couldn't return to the 13 countries immediately. Secondly, he was slightly interested in the dragon-killing alliance. Without a doubt, Zhao Feng returning to the cloud area meant that he would have an irreconcilable conflict with the Iron Dragon Alliance. Brother Zhao, please. The Third Highness raised his hand. At this moment, old Jiang raised his hand, and a two-legged flying eagle descended from the sky. Zhao Feng did not decline. He stepped onto the back of the two-legged flying eagle. We can't stay here for long. We need to meet up with Elder Su and Princess Jean. Elder Jiang controlled the double-legged flying eagle, and the group quickly flew to the sky. Zhao Feng didn't ask for the location either. On the way, he asked about the general situation of the Cloud region, especially the situation of the Iron Dragon Alliance and the 13 countries. Old Jiang, the third prince, and the others all answered him. However, as time passed, the tiredness on Zhao Feng's face grew heavier and heavier. Meow meow. Zhao Feng swiped his ancient metal ring, and the silver-gray cat jumped onto his shoulder. Old Jiang's eyes flickered. This was the first time he had seen such a storage tool that could accommodate spiritual pets and living creatures. The thieving cat in front of him also gave him a feeling of unfathomable intelligence. After summoning the thieving cat, Zhao Feng closed his eyes and fell asleep just like that. Amidst the wind, Zhao Feng peacefully fell asleep. His hair was as blue as the ocean, and as it rose and fell, it exuded a mysterious and gentle aura. Those from the sky-rich Imperials were stunned. They didn't think that the youth that defeated the blood-sickle slaughterer would fall asleep so casually. However, the sleep that Zhao Feng fell asleep this time was slightly different from when his god spiritual eye had mutated. On the way, Zhao Feng would wake up every few hours or half a day. But every time he woke up, Zhao Feng would feel sleepy again, and then fall asleep again. Those from the sky-rich Imperials were stunned at first, but then they became numb. Zhao Feng's drowsiness was accepted by them, even though it was still a bit weird. Half a month later, in an underground palace deep in the mountains, a cold aura seeped out from the dark red stones around the palace. Reporting to the palace lord, the blood-sickle slaughterer's mission has ended in failure. A man in blood-red clothes appeared in the underground palace in a flash. He was very respectful. In front of him was a throne that glowed with blood, but there was no one on it. Beneath the throne was a pool of blood. The bubbles bubbled, emitting hot steam. Wang! The blood crystal throne suddenly flashed with a bright blood light, and a figure with a terrifying aura appeared. That figure was covered in flowing blood, and its entire body was suffused with dark silver stripes. It was like a bloody corpse that struck fear into the hearts of those who saw it. The blood-sickle slaughterer is just a true human-ranked member of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and is under the command of the 18th Core Elder. Why did you report this to me? The blood-colored corpse on the throne slowly sat down. Upon a closer look, it was an ugly human that looked like a zombie. His entire body was covered in dark silver stripes, and his entire body was flowing with blood. If Zhao Feng was here, he would probably recognize this silver-striped blood corpse as the blood corpse protector he met in the Scarlet Moon demonic lair. Reporting to the palace lord, The 18th Corps Elder has been sent out to capture the sky-rich Imperials. However, the Blood Sickle Slaughterer has asked to see the Palace Lord many times, but to no avail. Before he died, he left behind a will. The killer's strength isn't something normal Corps Elders can fight against, the blood-clothed male said uneasily. According to the rules, the Blood Sickle Slaughterer's mission was under the control of the 18 Corps Elders. Reporting to the Palace Lord was already suspicious. How did the Blood Sickle Slaughterer die? The Palace Lord of the silver-striped blood corpses asked emotionlessly. He obviously had some impression of the Blood Sickle Slaughterer. The Blood Sickle Slaughterer was captured in one move, and his cultivation was crippled. The killer was a blue-haired youth, who purposely left the Blood Sickle Slaughterer alive. The blood-clothed male said, "Who's so arrogant?" The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's expression changed dramatically. Even the man in blood-red clothes who was narrating this matter was slightly surprised. Ever since the Iron Dragon Alliance was formed, this was the first time they had encountered such a situation. The enemy had killed an expert of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and purposely left him alive to inform them. Even the Scarlet Moon Demonic Religion's Palace Lord was shocked by such an arrogant person. The Iron Dragon Alliance controlled the entire Cloud area, and their forces had already spread to the surrounding strong countries. Normal enemies wouldn't even be able to escape when they were chased by the Iron Dragon Alliance. Even if they had the chance to kill them, they would kill them all. No one would purposely leave someone alive. The current situation was a blatant provocation to the Iron Dragon Alliance. What's the background of that blue-haired youth? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's face was filled with killing intent. His background isn't confirmed yet, but it's speculated that he might be the #1 genius that escaped from the 13 countries Zhaofeng. However, their appearances are slightly different. The blood-clothed male said uncertainly. After speaking, he took out a portrait. This portrait was drawn according to the Blood Sickle Slaughterer description before his death. Pass down the order. Activate the first-class bounty. Put a bounty on this person's head in the Cloud area. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's cold voice resounded throughout the underground palace. Understood. The blood-clothed male's heart shook. He never would have thought that the Blood Corpse Palace Lord would send out a rank 1 killing order. Ever since the Iron Dragon Alliance was formed, the number of rank 1 killing orders that had been sent out could be counted on one hand. Normally, only when a true Lord rank expert threatened the Iron Dragon Alliance would they send out a rank 1 killing order. This was basically the highest bounty the Iron Dragon Alliance had ever sent out. This subordinate will leave now. The blood-clothed male picked up the portrait and was about to leave. Wait! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's gaze accidentally glanced over the portrait and suddenly spoke. This is the portrait of the blue-haired killer. After dozens of revisions, it's said to be at least 90% similar to the real person. The blood-clothed male was very good at reading people and handed over the portrait. This youth, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, took the portrait and fell into his memories before his expression started to change. The blood-clothed male seemed uneasy. Could it be that one of the decision-makers of the alliance, the Palace King, knew the youth in the portrait? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord stared at the portrait for a long time and felt that it was familiar. It was similar to a youth from a few years ago. Thinking about that youth from a few years ago, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord felt humiliated and angry. Back then in the Scarlet Moon Demonic Cave, the Blood Corpse Protector had just awakened and was in an extremely weak state. At that time, he had planned to use Zhaofeng and the other Broken Moon Clan disciples as a sacrifice, but he was defeated by Zhaofeng and was even extorted. Pass down my order. Find out who this youth is and I want him alive. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's gaze moved away from the portrait. After several years, Zhaofeng's appearance and aura had changed. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord felt that he was familiar, but he wasn't 100% sure. But regardless of whether it was true or not, he still held on to the principle of it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go. He issued an order to capture and kill that young man. Several days later, within the borders of the Heavenly Rich Kingdom, in a remote mountain, the two-legged flying eagle was exhausted. Zhao Feng sat on the two-legged flying eagle and slowly opened his eyes, asking, "How many days have passed?" "Brother Zhao, you've slept for a total of 20 days. You've woken up a few times, but the time was very short," the Third Highness said. So, the two-legged flying eagle slowly descended into a misty abyss. Half the time it took to make tea later, a small villa appeared at the bottom of the abyss. "Brother Zhao, this is one of the core strongholds of the dragon-killing alliance." Old Jiang was afraid that Zhao Feng would continue to sleep. Over the past few days, Zhao Feng's sleepiness hadn't improved at all. However, every time he woke up, his left eye would show a blue luster. The cold aura from Zhao Feng's body started to cool down, and his blue hair started to become softer and calmer. Within the dimension of his left eye, the 99-zhang cold pond had basically melted into deep blue water. The air was cool, and the waves were rippling. "I can still last a bit longer. Before I sleep, I hope to see the upper echelon of the dragon-killing alliance," Zhao Feng said. "Third Highness, quickly go and inform Old Su," Old Jiang hurriedly urged. However, as soon as he said this, "Master is in seclusion and can't see anyone. If there's anything, I can pass it on." A beautiful girl in blue walked out from the villa, and her voice was like the wind blowing across the water. The girl in blue had a pure and elegant aura, but it didn't lose any of her elegance. Her looks were top tier in the cloud area. The #1 beauty of Sun Feather City was like a grain of rice compared to the moon. Princess Jean. The eyes of the males present lit up, and their footsteps slowed down. That Princess Jean was the gentle and elegant type that most men liked, and she was once the princess of a powerful country. Apparently, this Princess Jean had returned from the sacred True Dragon gathering not long ago, and was surrounded by legends. Chapter 447. Master is in seclusion and can't see anyone. If there's anything, I can pass it on. Princess Jin's voice was like a clear spring. Her eyes were as clear as water, and her face was as tender as the snow in spring. She was dressed in a noble classical blue dress, gentle and dignified, but not lacking in elegance. Under the hazy night sky, her skin exuded a tender luster, flawless, like a beauty in a painting under the moon. Beautiful but not seductive, beautiful but not dangerous. Princess Jean had reached an unbelievable balance in terms of beauty. Many males present forgot to breathe, and their footsteps were stiff. However, when their eyes met Princess Jin's, they all looked away and felt ashamed. Ninth sister. The Third Highness was overjoyed. Brother and sister met again and smiled. "Gina, Old Su's injuries haven't improved at all?" Elder Zhang's expression was solemn. Princess Jean shook her head bitterly. "Master was ambushed by several True Lord ranks, and was fatally injured. It's already a miracle that he survived until now." Hearing this, the expressions of those from the sky-rich Imperials were slightly dejected. "Elder Jiang, what kind of esteemed guest is asking to see Master?" Princess Jean calmed her emotions and scanned across the sky-rich Imperials. Only then did Elder Jiang and the Third Highness react. "Ninth sister, let me introduce you. This is Zhao." The third prince had just turned his hand, and was halfway through his words when he suddenly choked. When Elder Jiang and the Third Highness turned around, Zhao Feng was nowhere to be seen. Soon, everyone's gazes landed on the grass. In the grass, a blue-haired youth was sleeping peacefully on the grass. His breathing was even. He fell asleep again. Those from the sky-rich Imperials exclaimed, but they didn't find it strange. They had gotten used to Zhao Feng's habit of sleeping over the past 20 days. "Who is he?" Princess Jin's expression was calm, but it wasn't hard to guess her displeasure from the coldness in her voice. Any young genius would feel uneasy when meeting the legendary Princess Jean of the Cloud area. They couldn't lose their manners. But this young guest actually fell asleep when he saw Princess Jean. Within the villa, some of the elites of the Dragon-Killing Alliance were dumbfounded. "Tsk tisk. It's the first time I've seen someone fall asleep in front of Tianfeng's #1 beauty. Interesting. Princess Jean must be angry, but with her temperament she won't show it." Everyone present was secretly talking to each other, waiting to watch a good show. "Hee hee, ninth sister. This esteemed guest situation is a little special. The third prince smiled awkwardly and quickly explained. This is the first time I've seen such a distinguished guest. Although you're the royal highness of the sky-abundant imperial family, isn't it a little inappropriate to bring a person of unknown origin into the core base of the dragon-killing alliance? Princess Jean was still gentle and dignified, but the questioning in her tone caused the atmosphere to become tense. Clearly, in terms of status, Princess Jean was higher than the third highness. The crowd did not find it strange. Princess Jean was the #1 genius of the sky-rich strong country, and had even participated in the sacred True Dragon gathering. Not only that, she was also the last disciple of Su Lao. In terms of talent and cultivation, Princess Jean had reached the true human rank and was less than 20 years old. In the cloud area, she was definitely a prodigy. Ninth sister, Brother Zhao was the #1 genius of the 13 countries and helped us escape. Cold sweat appeared on the third highness' forehead. Although Princess Jean was his sister, the latter was very talented and was chosen by the #1 sect of the Sky Wind Pavilion in the Sky-Rich country. In the imperial family, Princess Jin's identity was extremely special. She was both a princess and a once-in-a-century genius of the Sky Wind Pavilion. She was the link between the imperial family and the clan. In the eyes of the experts of the clan, her importance was even greater than the late monarch of the Sky-Rich country. At this moment, facing Princess Jin's questioning, the third highness felt a mountain of pressure. With his understanding of the ninth sister, she was definitely angry and unhappy. Even old Jiang, who was in a brown robe, broke out in cold sweat. While the highest leader of the alliance, Su Lao, was in seclusion, Princess Jean, his last disciple, was his spokesperson. As for what was happening in the outside world, Zhao Feng didn't feel anything. As long as there wasn't any intense commotion or killing intent, Zhao Feng wouldn't easily wake up. This sleep was indeed different from the last time, when the god's spiritual eye changed. Someone settle down this person and cat. Without my permission, no one is allowed to come close. Although Princess Jean looked gentle, she was very decisive when she gave orders. As soon as she finished, several figures quickly closed in and surrounded Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat. Jean, or don't. Old Zhang's expression changed dramatically, and he quickly stopped her. He knew that the youth in front of him was a true mystic rank expert with unfathomable strength. Because he was in a deep sleep, Zhao Feng's aura was extremely weak, which was why it wasn't easy to detect. At this moment in time, the atmosphere became solemn. Old Jiang and the third highness tried their best to protect Zhao Feng and stop Princess Jin's orders. You're all going to stop my orders? Princess Jin's expression went cold. She didn't expect this either. Why would old Jiang and the third highness protect a youth of unknown origin, and even bring him into the core stronghold of the dragon-killing alliance? Meow meow. The little thieving cat bared its fangs and waved its paws as it sat on its master and looked around at the members of the dragon-killing alliance. This cat. Princess Jean suddenly felt that it was familiar. The little thieving cat in front of her matched with the scene from the sacred True Dragon gathering in her memories. Little thieving cat, blue-haired youth. Princess Jin's eyes turned and inspected the blue-haired youth's appearance for the first time. Before, Zhao Feng was sleeping on the ground with his back facing her, so Princess Jean could only see a rough outline. It's him. Looking closely, Princess Jin's heart suddenly jumped. But how is he here? Her face was filled with joy, and she couldn't help but stare at the sleeping blue-haired youth. The 360-degree turn left the crowd dumbfounded. Their jaws almost dropped to the ground. Just a moment ago, Princess Jin's expression was tight in anger. But in the blink of an eye, Princess Jin's attitude had changed so much that no one could understand it. It was said that women were fickle, and their hearts were like needles at the bottom of the ocean. At this moment, everyone felt it. Princess Jin's face was slightly red and filled with joy and excitement. Her expression couldn't help but contain the respect from the bottom of her heart. There was even a rare girlish worship and warmth. The third highness' mouth opened wide. He suddenly found that he didn't understand this ninth sister that he had known for so many years. This was the first time he had seen such girlish warmth on Princess Jin's face. What secret does this Zhao Feng have to make the former #1 beauty of the sky-rich country like him? The elites present couldn't describe what they were feeling at this moment. The blue-haired youth in front of them seemed to have a magical power. Even in a deep sleep, he was able to make everyone's goddess like him. Even old Jiang, who had seen many things, was slightly surprised. Old Jiang, brother third king, you were able to bring him to the dragon-killing alliance. Is this the blessing of the heavens? Princess Jin took a deep breath. Her heart was still beating rapidly. Her beautiful eyes almost stayed on the blue-haired youth and couldn't move away for even an instant. Then, everyone saw Princess Jin lift Zhao Feng up and take care of him herself. She ordered people to carry him to the bed and even took care of him herself. Inside the village, the elites of the dragon-killing alliance couldn't believe their eyes. The goddess in their hearts, the #1 genius of the sky-rich country, Princess Jin, was so humble to take care of a youth of the same age. Zhao Feng smelled a faint fragrance in his sleep. He couldn't help but flip over and sweep his hand across Princess Jin's butt. Princess Jin's face was as red as blood. She quickly placed Zhao Feng in a clean room before getting up to leave. Before leaving, she looked back at the sleeping Zhao Feng. There was a sliver of warmth and infatuation in her gaze. A while later, in a building within the village, Ninth Sister, when did you meet Brother Zhao? The Third Highness asked impatiently. At this moment in time, the flames of gossip burned in everyone's hearts. Even old Jiang couldn't help but be curious. In everyone's heart, Princess Jin had always admired herself and thought her talent was higher than the heavens. When had she ever put any of the young geniuses of the cloud area in her eyes? I know him, but he might not know me? Princess Jin sighed. At this moment in time, many scenes flashed through her mind. The beginning of the scene, Princess Jin was in the ancient arena and seemed so insignificant in front of the several thousand geniuses from all over the continent. She was only at the beginning stages of the true human rank and was at the bottom of the sacred true dragon gathering. Compared to the dazzling stars, she was so ordinary. She couldn't even compare to the overwhelming prodigies of several eras. In the crowd, she looked up at the 5 heavens prides as they performed one exciting battle after another, pushing this era to the peak of a golden age. There was no suspense at all. She lost the first battle. In the second round, she lost again. She lost again in the third. She did not even make it past the first round of the 5 regions competition. She was severely injured midway and could not continue. Of course, she wasn't willing to give up. Even if she was eliminated, she wanted to see the battle between the geniuses of this era. The sacred true dragon gathering continued until she saw a dazzling star, the king of the new stars and the unparalleled dark horse, killing miracles and becoming the new overwhelming prodigy. That youth had a head of blue hair and had a little cat next to him. He attracted the attention of everyone and spread their passion to every corner of the ancient arena. Reversal miracle undefeatable. That youth was reaching the peak step by step, unknowingly when her eyes became moist and she couldn't help but shout for him. No one knew. At that pinnacle event, the man and the cat had won so many cheers and moved people, as well as so many fans and supporters. The speed of thought was only an instant. Those scenes flashed through Princess Jin's mind. She had never thought that one day, she would be able to meet this godlike young man in such close proximity and watch his every breath and every breath he took. Chapter 448. Within the building of the villa, Princess Jin woke up from her memories, and her eyes became clear again. However, what awaited her was the fiery gazes of the crowd. Ninth Sister, how do you know this Zhao Feng? The Third Highness couldn't help but ask. 2 years ago, Zhao Feng escaped with the identity of the #1 genius of the 13 countries and was hunted down. Logically, Zhao Feng and Princess Jin shouldn't know each other. It was fine if they knew each other. But why did Princess Jin say that she knew him, but he might not know her? This Zhao Feng has reached the true mystic rank at such a young age. It's hard to imagine that such a genius came from the cloud area. Even across the continent he's a rare prodigy. Elder Jiang couldn't help but sigh. Princess Jin's eyes twinkled, but she didn't immediately reply. If the world knew that Zhao Feng was one of the top overwhelming prodigies of the sacred True Dragon Gathering, what kind of shock would it bring to the Cloud area? The people of the clan world knew that the Cloud area was just a poor place in the entire continent. In the past, it was a great honor for the Cloud area to send a few representatives to the sacred True Dragon Gathering. After careful consideration, Princess Jean made a decision. I've seen Zhao Feng in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. His performance was indeed shocking, and he's considered a top genius in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. Princess Jean smiled warmly. She had hidden Zhao Feng's shocking achievements in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. The reason she hid it was because of Zhao Feng's safety. Although Zhao Feng was strong and talented, he was still a genius of the younger generation. If the Iron Dragon Alliance knew that there was such an overwhelming prodigy amongst their enemies, they would probably panic and kill him at the cradle. Princess Jin's thoughts were correct, but she didn't know what kind of leap Zhao Feng had made after entering the inheritance. She didn't enter the sacred True Dragon 100 top, and was unable to enter the inheritance, which was why she was able to return to the Cloud area so quickly. So that's how it is. This Zhao Feng also participated in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. Everyone in the pavilion came to a realization. No wonder Princess Jean knew Zhao Feng. However, everyone was still confused as to why Princess Jing would be so excited after recognizing Zhao Feng. Her reaction was truly out of the ordinary. Elder Jiang could faintly guess that Zhao Feng's performance in the sacred True Dragon Gathering had exceeded his expectations. After all, his cultivation was there. He was certain that Princess Jean was hiding some secrets. But since Princess Jean wasn't willing to say, they couldn't keep asking. In the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 days had passed. Zhao Feng spent most of his time in deep sleep. Princess Jean stayed next to Zhao Feng and took care of him. She would occasionally play with the little thieving cat. During this period, Zhao Feng had woken up a few times. His left eye had a hint of blue luster, which was refreshing. Compared to the sacred True Dragon Gathering, the coldness in Zhao Feng's left eye had melted and became as gentle as water. This aura was very close to Princess Jin's law of water. His dreamy blue hair had a deeper luster, as deep as the sea. Every time Princess Jean looked at him, her consciousness seemed to fall into a bottomless abyss. This was a godlike youth. His eye bloodline had become a legend in the sacred True Dragon Gathering, and was full of mysteries. However, what disappointed Princess Jean was that every time Zhao Feng woke up, he would only wake up for a short period of time before going back to sleep. Furthermore, when he woke up, Zhao Feng's expression was lazy, and he obviously didn't know Princess Jean. It was as if he was talking to a passerby. Princess Jean was disappointed, but this was all within her expectations. It was reasonable. She must have waited too long. Zhao Feng, my master will come out of seclusion in a few days. He's the leader of the Dragon Killing Alliance. I look forward to meeting you then. Princess Jean had a faint smile and quickly told him the news. Hearing this, Zhao Feng's eyes narrowed and he nodded his head. Even though he had spent most of his time in deep sleep, he was very clear about the purpose of this trip. One of Zhao Feng's goals in staying in the sky-rich country was to meet Old Su. Zhao Feng calculated that he would only need to sleep 2 or 3 more times before he could see Old Su. Soon, Zhao Feng went back to sleep. Princess Jean sighed and walked out of the building. The little thieving cat behind her smiled. She knew that with the little thieving cat protecting him, there was no need to worry about Zhao Feng's safety under normal circumstances. Late at night, the mountain at the bottom of the abyss was covered in mist and cold air. Hoop chio! The sound of something flying through the air suddenly sounded. Whoosh! A fierce and frightening wind pressure fell from the sky like a huge mountain, like a raging wave beating against the shore. Numerous phantom-like afterimages flashed through the sky, and they were accompanied by a wave of strange laughter that rose and fell, causing one's hair to stand on end. Enemy attack! The guardian knight hiccuped, and his breathing seemed to stop. He gathered all his strength, and barely spat out 2 words. Not good. Enemy attack! The tranquil villa and the misty moonlit night were immediately broken by urgent shouts. Princess Jin's heart jumped and she raised her head. The moonlit sky was covered by a dark gray net. The dark gray net was controlled by 36 figures wearing skull masks. It covered an area of 1 mile and descended from the sky, forming an iron net that looked like a dark cloud above the villa. Damn it! This is the famous Iron Cloud Death Net of the Iron Dragon Alliance. It was created by True Lord Taishao and is used for night attacks to kill experts in an area. Princess Jin's expression changed and her face went white. The Iron Cloud Death Net was a special killing array that usually required 1 or 2 true human ranks to control and 34 experts at the 6th or 7th sky of the Ascended Realm to form the array. The specialty of this killing array was that it formed extremely quickly. Although it didn't have much killing power, it was like a prison that made it hard for those trapped to escape. At this moment in time, the Iron Cloud Death Net had already condensed into shape in the sky above the mountain villa. The flickering gray net became colder and colder. Aha! The Iron Cloud Death Net has formed successfully. Under the Death Net, everyone is a bird in a cage. Remnants of the heavenly abundance 7 sects surrender now. A fat bald man in a dark red robe was leaning against a mountain wall in the distance. His face was oily, and he was unusually excited. Core Elder, I didn't think that we would find the Dragon Killing Alliance's core stronghold while chasing that blue-haired youth. This is a great chance for the 18th Palace to make a great contribution. Almost all of us have come out for this mission and set up the Iron Cloud Death Net. Even if the Dragon Killing Alliance's old monster Su was here, he wouldn't be able to escape. Silhouettes of all shapes and sizes appeared on the mountain walls. They were fat, skinny, ugly, short and short. There were 3 or 4 auras at the True Spirit Realm, and more than a dozen at the half-step True Spirit Realm. This didn't even include the 2 at the True Spirit Realm, controlling the Iron Cloud Death Net. Everyone looked at the fat baldy in the dark red robe as their leader, and they were filled with respect. After a short period of chaos, the elites of the Dragon Killing Alliance quickly formed a defensive formation. However, most of the people revealed expressions of despair. The Iron Dragon Alliance had used the power of an entire subpalace to attack this place. More terrifyingly, they had even formed the Iron Cloud Death Net. Once the Iron Cloud Death Net is formed, those under the true mystic rank won't be able to escape. Elder Jiang, Third Highness, and company had ashen expressions as they formed a defensive formation with the members of the Dragon Killing Alliance. Everyone, don't panic. If we work together, we still have a chance. I believe that old Su will soon come out of seclusion and help us defeat the enemy at the critical moment. Princess Jin's soft voice echoed across the battlefield. The most urgent matter. She needed to stabilize the morale of the army. Only then would there be a possibility of a battle. Hearing the name of old Su, everyone's hearts calmed down, and their eyes lit up with hope and fighting spirit. The 18th Palace of the Iron Dragon Alliance has come out. The 18th Core Elder is famed for his cunning and schemes. He specializes in defense and fights of attrition. Princess Jean inspected the enemy's formation and couldn't help but feel bitter. The Iron Dragon Alliance had a total of 36 Core Elders that controlled the 36 subpalaces. The Core Elders were the pillars of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and each of them could intimidate a faction. Most of them were at the True Mystic rank or above. Some of the True Mystic rank members might not even be able to become a Core Elder. There are 2 experts at the True Mystic rank and above. Old Su is recovering, and his strength has dropped to the True Mystic rank. The other is sleeping. Princess Jean couldn't help but analyze their battle power. Firstly, the Dragon Killing Alliance didn't have any advantage in terms of high-end battle power. Secondly, the Iron Dragon Alliance had more than half the number of true human rank experts than the village. What was even more terrifying was that the Iron Dragon Alliance had launched a night attack to gain the initiative. They had set up the Iron Cloud Death Net, and as time passed, more and more reinforcements would arrive. However, the 18th Core Elder specialized in attrition. Brothers, seal the village. Don't let even a fly escape. Once we take down the village, you can play with that princess. On the mountain wall, the fat on Fatty Nian's face trembled slightly. His lustful eyes swept over Princess Jean in the villa. As soon as he said this, the members of the Iron Dragon Alliance rubbed their fists in excitement and licked their lips. However, the 18 core elders weren't in a rush to attack, and instead focused on surrounding the village. The longer we delay, the better it is for us. If the people in the village want to escape, they have to break out. All we need to do is wait. The fat baldy leaned against the mountain wall. Although he seemed lascivious, there was a calm look in his eyes. His spiritual sense was searching the village. The person called Zhao Feng was a blue-haired youth, who was said to be at the true mystic rank. He was obviously prepared. Kill! Kill! Princess Jean, Elder Jiang, and the other true spirit realm experts tried to break out of the village. Ding! 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 The dark gray net in the sky was like a dark cloud that created sparks. Those at the true mystic rank might be able to break a small hole, but the dark gray net was quickly repaired by the array. Plop! 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 In the first charge, the Dragon-Killing Alliance only had 4 or 5 corpses. On the other hand, the Iron Dragon Alliance only had 1 casualty. The Iron Cloud Death Net was like an impregnable city. If one wanted to break out, they would have to pay a heavy price. The hearts of Princess Jean, Elder Jiang, and the other true spirit realm experts dropped. Chapter 449. In the air above the village, the dark gray net was as thin as a spider's web, and it gave off a metallic coldness as it extended to a radius of 1 mile. The net that the 36 experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance had created made it so that everyone in the villa below was like a bird in a cage, unable to escape even if they had wings. The expressions of the members of the Dragon-Killing Alliance were gray, and their hearts were filled with despair. The power of the Iron Cloud Death Net was even more terrifying than they had imagined. The first round of attempts to break out had ended in failure. Right now, the cloud area belongs to the Iron Dragon Alliance. The longer this drags on, the smaller the chance of escaping. Princess Jin's heart was burning with impatience, but she had to maintain her calm on the surface. However, the Iron Dragon Alliance had the advantage, but they didn't rush to attack. It was obvious that they wanted to kill everyone in one fell swoop. The eyes of the 18 Iron Dragon Core Elder, the fat baldy, were squinting and occasionally flashed with coldness. If the survivors of the Dragon-Killing Alliance want to escape, they can only forcefully break out. I'll defend instead of attacking. The fat baldy leaned against the wall of the mountain, his smile full of sinister and cunning. Of course, while he controlled the situation, he didn't forget to release his spiritual sense to search for the village below. His target was the blue-haired youth that was suspected to be called Zhao Feng. If it wasn't for the fact that the upper echelon of the Iron Dragon Alliance had issued a rank 1 killing order, he wouldn't have used all the power of the 18 sub-palaces. In reality, according to past experience, the peak power of a sub-palace wasn't enough to carry out a rank 1 killing order. The fat baldy's spiritual sense locked onto a room within the village. Within the room, a blue-haired youth was sleeping peacefully. Next to him was a cat that was napping. The killing atmosphere outside didn't seem to affect this person and cat at all. The fat baldy couldn't help but reveal a weird expression. Such a young youth was the target of a rank 1 killing order? Everyone, once the Dragon-Killing Alliance breaks out of the encirclement, prepare to defend and kill. The 18th Core Elder took back his spiritual sense and had a smile on his face, as if victory was already in his grasp. He didn't act rashly, and continued to use the Iron Cloud Death Net to defend. This was obviously the most stable strategy, and it could use the smallest price to obtain the greatest result. Kill! The Dragon-Killing Alliance launched a second wave of attacks, and their attacks were even more ferocious. However, they were met with a frenzied counterattack from the Iron Dragon Alliance, leaving behind a dozen or so corpses. The gray net that permeated the air above the manor quickly repaired itself, as if nothing had happened. In the villa, apart from Princess Jean and Elder Jiang, there was another middle-aged man in gray. That was to say, the Dragon-Killing Alliance only had 3 true human rank experts. Princess Jean, if Old Sue still doesn't make a move, then even if we manage to break out of the encirclement, it will be difficult for us to escape death. The 18th core elder of the Iron Dragon Alliance has yet to make a move. The true human rank gray-robed middle-aged man wiped the blood from his mouth and bitterly shook his head. Once a true mystic rank's power interfered, the situation would change. Jing quickly get old Su out of seclusion, or the consequences will be unimaginable. Elder Jiang couldn't help but urge. Princess Jean cursed inside. Her master was at a critical moment in seclusion. If he came out in a rush, it would have a great negative impact on his foundation and injuries. Just as Princess Jean was in a dilemma, an old roar came from the depths of the villa. Jinger, don't panic. Your master will come out immediately. The voice was deep and deep, as if it came from the other side of the ocean. A fierce sandstorm blew around the villa, and a scarlet-green light appeared in the clouds. The heaven-earth Yuan Qi trembled and resonated with it. The aura caused the 18th Iron Dragon Core Elder's expression to change, and his heart to skip a beat. True Lord rank. Is old Su of the Dragon Killing Alliance really here? The true Spirit Realm experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance started to panic, but they weren't scared of normal True Lord ranks. Whoosh! Amidst the howling sandstorm, a white-browed old man in a green robe floated into the air above the villa, surrounded by a layer of green and red flames. Crack! The old man waved one of his palms. It was as if there was a blazing sun that emitted a dazzling and scorching red sunlight. It tore open a hole that was nearly 100 feet in diameter in the dark net that was like a dark cloud. Old Su has come out of seclusion. Cheers came from the villa. The newcomer was the spiritual leader of the Dragon Killing Alliance, Old Su, one of the few true lord ranks in the cloud area. This Su Tianqian used to be the Grand Elder of the Sky Wind Pavilion and led the Sky Rich Seven clans to fight against the Iron Dragon Strong Country for many years. If it wasn't for the fact that he's heavily injured and his strength has dropped to the true mystic rank, we would probably have to run. The true Spirit Realm experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance were shocked, but they also felt lucky. Ha ha ha. Su Tianqian, let this elder see how much battle power you have left. The fat Baldy let out a long laugh, and a dark white bone sword appeared in his hand. A layer of dark and gloomy flame patterns appeared on the surface of the bone sword, adding a bit of coldness and evilness to it. Evil Sword Burning Prairie. The 18th Core Elder's white bone sword spun. All of a sudden, a gust of violent and sinister sword chi astral wind, accompanied by red and green flames, rushed down to the villa below, as well as to the elder. The fat Baldy's attack was extremely subtle, and didn't just target Old Su, but the other members of the Dragon Killing Alliance. Shameless bastard, Old Su roared as his sleeves fluttered, and created a whirlpool of scarlet-green light. The scarlet-green light quickly expanded, and absorbed the fat Baldy's attack, so that it wouldn't affect the other experts in the villa. The battle power of the two was at least close to the peak true mystic rank. The shockwaves from their battle would threaten those at the true human rank and cause unimaginable damage to those below the true spirit realm. In order to avoid this, Old Su could only use more Yuan Qi, and his Qi of true spirit released a shocking aura. Bam! Bam! Boom! Old Su and the fat Baldy exchanged a few blows in the air above the villa. In this period of time, the fat Baldy's cunning attacks were all seen through and blocked by Old Su. However, Old Su expended more Yuan Qi because of this. Bam! 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 The scarlet-green flaming light turned into a beam of light that shot into the sky and pierced through the iron cloud death net. Bam! The 18th Elder, the fat Baldy, groaned as he was pushed back dozens of yards and blood leaked from his mouth. No wonder he's at the true lord rank. Even though his strength has dropped, I can't beat him alone. The fat Baldy wasn't surprised. Seeing the 18th Elder retreat, the members of the Dragon Killing Alliance exclaimed in joy. Everyone! Old Su organized the members of the Dragon Killing Alliance. Princess Jean suddenly thought of something and ordered people to carry the sleeping Zhao Feng over. Zhao Feng was still sleeping soundly in the midst of the fighting outside. On the other hand, the little thieving cat's eyes spun as it inspected both sides. Prepare to break out. Princess Jean protected Zhao Feng and followed Old Su to break out. With the help of Elder Su, the impregnable iron cloud death net was instantly torn open a couple of large holes. To this, the 18th elder laughed and didn't panic at all as he said, "What are you waiting for? How long do you want to wait? Hee, this battle is so boring. I'm about to fall asleep." A delicate girl's laughter pierced through the night sky. Shwa. In the night, a slender and hazy shadow appeared on a big tree in the villa. "Who's there?" The hearts of the Dragon Killing Alliance members shook as their footsteps froze, and they all turned around. At some point, a mysterious woman had appeared behind the crowd. She had a beautiful and hazy figure, and she wore a pure black dress that seemed to blend in with the night. No one knew when this mysterious girl had snuck into the village. Even old Su didn't notice her. "It's you, the 10th core elder of the Iron Dragon Alliance." A light flashed in old Su's eyes as he recognized the newcomer. It was obvious that they had met before. The 10th core elder. Both friend and foe's hearts shook. Everyone knew that the Iron Dragon Alliance had a total of 36 core elders, and most of them were at the true mystic rank. However, of the 36 core elders, the top 10 had terrifying methods that couldn't be measured by normal standards. The 10th core elder in front of them had reached the peak true mystic rank. If it was in the sacred true dragon gathering a few months ago, probably only Yu Tianhao would be able to fight her. Hehe. Su Tianxian, the scars caused by the encirclement back then are no longer there. It looks like you've recovered more than 30% of your battle power. The slender woman in the black dress chuckled and disappeared with a whoosh sound. "Don't even think about it," old Su roared as he appeared in front of Princess Jean, with a flash of scarlet-green light. Shoo! Suddenly, a sharp dagger pierced toward Princess Jean. Precisely speaking, the target of the dagger was Zhao Feng, who was in front of Princess Jean. Ding! In that moment of danger, old Su's finger blocked the dagger. Shwa! The slender black dress girl disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Princess Jean in the next instant. Her dagger slashed forward in a straight line. This time, her attack covered Princess Jean, Zhao Feng, and old Su at the same time. Killing intent. In his dreams, Zhao Feng barely managed to open his eyes, which were as blue as water. His deep blue hair undulated like ripples. Bam! Old Su's figure flashed over once again, and layers of scarlet-green light appeared around him, as he helped Princess Jean and Zhao Feng take the attack head-on. Old Su. Master! Princess Jin's face was pale white and her eyes were red. This time, old Su's chest was stained with blood and his figure shook. Su Tianxian, your flaws are still the same. If it wasn't for the fact that you were too kind, you wouldn't have been ambushed by us several years ago. The 10th core elder, the slender woman, wiped off the blood on her short blade as a mocking sneer appeared at the corner of her mouth. At the same time, Zhao Feng, who was leaning against Princess Jean, barely managed to open his eyes. Perhaps it was because he was woken up by an external force, but the blue water in his left eye started to tremble unstably. It kept on changing between ice and water, and would occasionally turn back into a dark azure light. Chapter 450. Zhao Feng's situation obviously caught the attention of both friend and foe. After all, he had the battle power of a true mystic rank, and was the target of the Iron Dragon Alliance's Rank 1 bounty. However, Zhao Feng's tired state made others doubt if he could even stand. Zhezha, our luck this time isn't just good. A heavily injured True Lord rank, and an extremely weak True Mystic rank prodigy. The 18th core elder, the Fat Baldy, floated into the air. He led a portion of the sub-palace forces and worked together with the slender woman to pincer Zhao Feng, Old Su, Princess Jean and company. Su Tianxian, you're a True Lord rank, but you're going to die in our hands today. The slender woman in the black dress wiped the sharp dagger in her hand. In reality, that attack just then had only caused some external injuries to Old Su, but it wasn't fatal. However, the slender woman already had victory in her hands, because she had Old Su's weakness. Old Su's strength was unquestionable. Only the two core elders working together would have the confidence to fight him head-on. However, Old Su had his misgivings. He could not ignore the life and death of the other people in the villa. If he fought, his hands and feet would be tied. However, what surprised the slender woman the most was Zhao Feng. the target of the Iron Dragon Alliance's Rank 1 bounty. Being a core member of the Iron Dragon Alliance, she knew what a Rank 1 bounty meant. Usually, a Rank 1 bounty required the threat of a true Lord rank and posed a great threat to the Iron Dragon Alliance's reputation. The target of a Rank 1 bounty is tired and has no battle power at all? The slender woman felt as if this wasn't real. In the face of a first-class arrest warrant, she was a little uneasy and needed to be prepared. However, the blue-haired youth in front of her didn't seem to have any ability to fight back, and even needed the protection of a woman. How could a first-class wanted order be so easily obtained? The slender woman and the fat baldy looked at each other and were overjoyed. The reward for completing a Rank 1 bounty was extremely rich, and was enough to make most true Spirit Realm cultivators' eyes go red. Jean, who's this youth? Old Su raised his eyebrows and asked with slight surprise. With his true Lord rank cultivation, it wasn't hard for him to see Zhao Feng's true cultivation. Moreover, the 10th Core Elder's assassination target was also Zhao Feng. 10th Elder, keep eccentric Du occupied for now. Let me kill this brat. Remember, capture and kill. The fat baldy's face was filled with joy. This Class 1 wanted order was a little special. It required the target to be captured alive. I'll give you all the credit. How can it be so easy? I'll leave old Monster Su to you. The slender woman ignored the 18th Elder and charged at Zhao Feng and Princess Jean. The fat baldy gritted his teeth, but he could not disobey. The 36 elders of the Iron Dragon Alliance were ranked according to their strength and status. He had experienced the slender woman's strength firsthand, and knew that he couldn't steal the credit. Su Tianqian, let's play again. The fat baldy's expression was dark as he waved his white-boned sword, and sent out waves of deadly flames that clashed with old Su. As for the slender woman, her movements were unpredictable, and she attacked Princess Jean and Zhao Feng again and again. However, old Su's cultivation level was still there, and he could see through the slender woman's movements every time. He fought against the 2 core elders alone. 10th Elder, why don't we kill this old bastard first? That's also a great achievement. The fat baldy was a little annoyed and suggested. Sure, this old bastard is big trouble. The slender woman's attacks suddenly split off and targeted old Su's weaknesses. Old Su had to protect Zhao Feng, Princess Jean, and block the 2 core elders at the same time. He felt bitter in his heart. If he was at his peak, he could instantly kill the 2 core elders. But his foundation had been injured, and his strength had dropped to the true mystic rank. Master. Princess Jin's eyes became moist. Her gaze turned and looked at the blue-haired youth in front of her. Princess Jean sighed in her heart. If you could take out half of the sacred true dragon gathering strength, this situation could be easily resolved. Right at this moment, the blue-haired youth's figure moved slightly. The god's spiritual eyes changed this time, seems to be different from before. Zhao Feng groaned and covered his left eye. The swelling pain was 10 times, or even 100 times stronger than usual, and it attacked his soul. If it wasn't for his strong will, he would have fainted long ago. Within the dimension of his left eye, the 99-jong cold pond had basically melted. Ripples appeared on the surface of the water, which was the deep blue color of the sea. However, this state wasn't completely stable. Every few moments, the tranquil water in the pond would turn into an icy pond, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. The god's spiritual eye's power changed between ice and water. That wasn't all. Every moment, a layer of azure light would appear on the pond, and its element would change again. Every time this happened, Zhao Feng's left eye would flash with an azure light. Your hair. Princess Jean suddenly realized that Zhao Feng's blue hair glowed with a green light for a moment. Meow meow. The little thieving cat looked at the change in Zhao Feng's eye and hair, and revealed a weird expression before becoming thoughtful. What's going on? My god spiritual eye didn't change much this time, but it can change between ice and water, and even return to its previous element. Zhao Feng found a pattern. Before the change, Zhao Feng's left eye and hair were azure. Just now, Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye had returned to its previous state. Ding ding bung 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 bung. Zhao Feng felt the battle around him, An elder with white eyebrows was doing his best to protect him. As time passed, Old Su found it more and more difficult to deal with the two core elders at the same time. He had reached the limit of his heart power. At a certain moment, the attacks of the two core elders reached a peak and pushed Old Su back several yards. Old Su was injured in many places because he was protecting Zhao Feng and Princess Jean. His old injuries suddenly acted up. Wah! Old Su spat out a mouthful of blood as he was pushed back. His face was pale. Master! Princess Jean screamed in pain. A good chance. The two core elders looked at each other with joy on their faces. Illusion Sky Void Stab. The slender black dress female's figure suddenly flashed and became a blur. Whoosh! 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 A transparent blade appeared out of nowhere and slashed towards Princess Jean and Zhao Feng. The first to be hit was Princess Jean. The blade was hard to see with the naked eye. It was as if it came from the air and couldn't be dodged at all. Kill Princess Jean first, then capture Zhao Feng. The slender female's blurry figure merged into the moonlight, and her killing intent pierced into the soul. Princess Jean couldn't dodge or fight back against an attack of this level. Her face was pale. Old Su, who was knocked back, spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered and couldn't help but cry out. Zhao Feng, who was leaning on Princess Jean, was expressionless. His face was still filled with fatigue and discomfort. A strange light flashed in the eyes of the 10th elder, who was charging over. Even in this situation, Zhao Feng remained unmoved, not a shred of fear in the slightest. If that's the case, the slender female's face went cold. The blade first cut towards Princess Jean's snow-white neck. At that moment, Princess Jean closed her eyes. Old Su roared in anger. Helplessness was written all over his face. As for Third Highness and the others, their thoughts couldn't keep up. A crisp sound rang out amidst the moonlit night. Time seemed to stop at this moment. Zhao Feng was still exhausted. He leaned on Princess Jean and seemed to be half asleep. The slender female was only half an inch away from Zhao Feng and Princess Jean. They could feel each other's breathing. However, her steps froze. Crack! The slender female's short blade broke into two. Meow meow. The silver-gray thieving cat on his shoulder played with a dark transparent dagger. As the dagger swayed, it left behind an illusory shadow blade light in the night. In a flash, the slender female's short blade was cut in two. Meow meow. The little thieving cat played with the dark transparent dagger with a smug expression. How is this possible? My Twilight Night Blade is a rare middle-tier spiritual grade inheritance weapon. It's a treasure in the world of assassins. The slender female was dazed and couldn't accept this reality. What? The fat Baldy's jaw almost fell off as he watched the slender female's Twilight Night blade be cut in two by the little thieving cat's mysterious dagger. The Illusion Sky Shadow Stab just now was the 10th Elder's famous skill. It was so fast that even normal true mystic ranks couldn't react. How could that thieving cat be so fast? In the time it took for a spark to fly, it had blocked the 10th Elder's assassination technique. What was even more unbelievable was that the dark transparent dagger in the little thieving cat's hand was able to cut through a spiritual grade weapon like tofu. Even some true lord ranks would find it hard to do this. At this point in time, both friend and foe fell into a momentary daze. Little thieving cat, don't leak the aura of your weapon. Let me do it. Zhao Feng's face was full of exhaustion as he rubbed his temples. Back in the Purple Saint treasured palace, when the little thieving cat obtained this mysterious inheritance weapon, even the Purple Saint partial spirit panicked. Meow meow. The little thieving cat nodded its head and instantly put away the mysterious dark transparent dagger. As soon as its words finished, Zhao Feng's tired body held onto Princess Jin's shoulder and slowly stood up. Ignorant brat. You don't even have the strength to truss a chicken, and you still want to resist? The 18th core elder, the fat Baldy, had a ruthless gaze as he recovered from his momentary shock. The cat's performance just then had indeed scared him. However, he soon saw that the little thieving cat's strength mainly came from the mysterious assassin weapon. Hand over the dagger. The black-dressed female recovered from the shock, and her face was filled with greed and joy. Think about it. If that mysterious dagger fell into her hands, what kind of legend would it create? Zhao Feng didn't bother with the two. He endured the exhaustion and slowly condensed the power of his god's spiritual eye. Hu Zhaofeng's left eye flashed with a faint blue, and then a bone-chilling coldness before flashing with an azure light. The three elements of ice, water, and wind changed and formed an unknown eye transformation. Chapter 451. Watch out! It's his eye bloodline. From afar, the 18th Corps elder noticed the weird change in Zhao Feng's left eye and couldn't help but warn the slender woman. Before the mission, they had obviously investigated the number one genius of the 13 countries. Amongst them, his eye bloodline was the most prominent trait of that genius. At this point in time, Zhao Feng's left eye started to change. Sometimes it was bone-piercing blue, sometimes it was as soft as water, and then it was as light as the wind. In this change, Zhao Feng forcefully suppressed the swelling pain in his left eye, and barely managed to steady himself as he took a step forward. Zhao Feng, you. Princess Jean quickly helped Zhao Feng steady. Seeing Zhao Feng open his left eye, she was half happy and half worried. She had personally seen the power of this eye bloodline at the Sacred True Dragon Gathering, and it was probably even stronger than the three major eye bloodlines of the continent. However, in this state, could Zhao Feng still attack? The little thieving cat stood on his shoulder and didn't move, but its black eyes twinkled. Perhaps it was the only one who could understand the reason behind this. After returning to the cloud area, Zhao Feng pointed his spear at the Iron Dragon Alliance, and even used himself as bait. However, at the same time, Zhao Feng wanted to keep some hidden cards like the Ice Imperial Spear and the True Lord rank Ghost Corpses. This was also why Zhao Feng stopped the little thieving cat from attacking and put away the mysterious assassin weapon. Little cat, hand over that dagger. The greed and killing intent in the black-dressed woman's eyes became stronger. However, she didn't dare to ignore the change in Zhao Feng's eye bloodline. Zhao Feng suppressed his tiredness and opened his god's spiritual eye and circulated the power in the dimension of his left eye. Dimension of his left eye. The aura of the pond changed between ice and water, and there would occasionally be a wisp of the wind element. This change was the source of Zhao Feng's discomfort. In everyone's eyes, Zhao Feng couldn't stand still and needed Princess Jin's help. With your current state? Let's see if your eye bloodline is faster, or if my assassination technique is faster. A trace of cruelty flashed across the corner of the slender woman's mouth, and a sharp awl that was spinning at a high speed appeared in her hand. The blue-haired youth in his line of sight was still tired and lazy, appearing to be indifferent. However, his left eye had successfully locked onto the slender woman. The slender woman's heart skipped a beat. She felt a sense of uneasiness that came from her soul. In a split second, she made a decision. When Zhao Feng's left eye locked onto her, the slender woman had no way out. Phantom sky, phantom stab. The slender woman's figure blurred again. In the darkness of the night, only an illusory and transparent sharp blade shadow could be seen, as if it was born out of thin air, stabbing towards Zhao Feng's chest. At that moment, the nearby True Spirit Realm Masters, Old Su, Princess Jean, 18th Elder, Elder Jiang, all held their breaths. The slender woman's ultimate skill had once again appeared, and her speed and power had reached a peak. In the cloud area, it was extremely rare for someone under the True Lord rank to be able to block this move. Everyone even had the feeling that the sharp blade had already pierced through Zhao Feng's body and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, Zhao Feng's left eye turned from ice to azure. His blue hair suddenly changed, and a layer of green appeared on it. Even the bloodline power in his body surged with a familiar azure hue that he hadn't seen in a long time. Its return to the azure eye of the past. Zhao Feng's left eye contracted as he instinctively circulated the azure blood in his body, and used a similar principle to the ice soul shooting line. Back when Zhao Feng had azure hair and azure eyes, his understanding of his eye bloodline was still shallow, and had only reached the beginner level. At this moment, Zhao Feng returned to his familiar state, and he instinctively circulated his eye bloodline skill. In the moonlight, the illusory and transparent sharp shadow was about to reach Zhao Feng's heart. It was only an inch or two away. The heart was the source of the human body's life force, Once the heart was broken, even a true lord rank would die. The smile on the slender woman's face was cruel and mocking. Her countless experience in killing enemies told her that the assassination was a success. However, when the transparent shadow was half an inch away from Zhao Feng's heart, the smile on the slender woman's face suddenly froze, and she looked a little confused. Pfft! A translucent azure wind blade sliced through the slender woman's throat. The slender woman's blurry figure froze on the spot. On her snow-white neck, a smooth blood-red cut was left, and then the color became darker and darker. As the night wind blew, the sound of a head falling to the ground could be heard. Hiss! Everyone gasped as if they had just woken up from a dream. No one saw clearly how Zhao Feng made his move. More accurately speaking, he didn't even make a move. All he did was lock onto the slender woman with his left eye. Only Old Su and a few others saw that Zhao Feng's left eye flashed with a cold azure light. This move is a bit like. Princess Jean thought back to the sacred True Dragon Gathering, and the successor of the Tuoba family's eye bloodline. Tuoba Chi's heavenly piercing eye was the instant his eye bloodline opened, and an invisible blade instantly sliced toward its target. Because his eye bloodline had returned to the wind element, Zhao Feng copied the heavenly piercing eye, and seemed to be very familiar with it. Plop! The slender woman's headless body fell into a pool of blood. She probably didn't even think that she would die to Zhao Feng's experimental eye bloodline. 10th Core Elder. Not far away, the 18th Core Elder Fat Baldy cried out involuntarily, his face ashen. He took in a cold breath and his body shook. The Fat Baldy never would have thought that the peak true mystic rank slender woman would be killed in the blink of an eye. He suddenly felt slightly regretful. How could someone who was listed as a rank 1 killing order be easy to deal with? Why didn't he listen to the blood sickle slaughterer's warning? However, there was no medicine for regret. After finishing off the slender woman, Zhao Feng suppressed his exhaustion and locked onto the 18th Core Elder with his left eye. Mercy! The Fat Baldy's soul almost flew out of his body as he rolled on the ground. Coincidentally at this moment, the power of Zhao Feng's left eye turned a bone-chilling blue. Ice soul shooting line. Zhao Feng's left eye condensed a transparent ray of light that instantly pierced through the 18th Core Elder's body and soul. The Fat Baldy's rolling figure seemed to turn to stone as a coldness seeped into his soul. In the next instant, the Fat Baldy's consciousness went black, and he fell into eternal sleep. His state was the same as Li Hong's back in the Purple Saint ruins. His consciousness had entered an endless hibernation. Even Void God realms couldn't do anything about it. However, after finishing all of this, Zhao Feng's eyes narrowed twice. The 10th Core Elder has fallen. Oh my god, the 18th Core Elder's fate is unknown. The other true spirit realm experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance were the first to react. Their hearts went cold, and they were scared out of their wits. Crack! 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 Amidst the chaos and panic, the iron cloud death net that had shrouded the entire mountain villa was broken without any resistance. The experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance lost without even fighting. First, the true spirit realm leader ran away. Then the entire formation collapsed. The members of the Dragon Killing Alliance were dazed and couldn't react in a short period of time. A few breaths ago, the Iron Dragon Alliance had pushed the entire village to the brink of death. However, in the blink of an eye, the Iron Dragon Alliance had collapsed. Everyone, follow up with another attack. Old Su was overjoyed as he looked deeply at Zhao Feng and ordered the members of the Dragon Killing Alliance to counterattack. However, the miraculous youth that had single-handedly turned the situation around fell into a deep sleep once again. When he fell asleep this time, the situation was different from before. Zhao Feng's consciousness didn't fall asleep, and he could feel the pond in the dimension of his left eye. The pond was, in essence, Zhao Feng's eye bloodline power. D. The 99-yard pond started to ripple, and a mysterious whirlpool formed in the middle. With a thought, Zhao Feng merged his consciousness into the whirlpool. Wang! Zhao Feng felt as if the pond had become the center of his body. Under his instincts, the aura of the pond started to change, and it started to give off a cold blue aura. From water to ice. This ability seemed to be an innate talent that couldn't be described with words. Immediately after, Zhao Feng controlled the whirlpool to contract and change. Shua. A gust of wind started to blow on the surface of the pond, and an azure light appeared. Wind creation. Looks like the god's spiritual eyes changed this time, is indeed different from the past. Zhao Feng nodded his head. Firstly, the god's spiritual eyes changed this time wasn't a big leap. For example, last time, the god's spiritual eye turned from azure to blue, and his hair turned blue. That was the big change. The change between ice and water didn't change the element. Zhao Feng could faintly feel that this small change was just a transition in preparation for the big change in the future. Although the god's spiritual eye had only gone through a small change this time, Zhao Feng had gained a lot. His eye bloodline power had more changes, and he could control it better. He didn't know how long he slept for. When Zhao Feng opened his eyes again, he felt that the pain from the god's spiritual eye had decreased by more than half. It seemed that the god's spiritual eye's change had passed the most critical stage. You're awake. Princess Jin's soft voice sounded. Zhao Feng opened his eyes, sat up and smiled faintly. How long did I sleep for? At this moment, Zhao Feng's hair was as blue as the sea, and his left eye was like a sapphire, giving off a gentle feeling. The coldness of the past didn't exist anymore. That intangible temperament seemed so gentle and refined, so charming. Princess Jin fell into a momentary daze. Her face went red and her heart jumped. She was used to the cold, wicked and emotionless youth at the sacred true dragon gathering. She never thought that the cold youth would have such a gentle and charming moment. You slept for half a month this time. I'll go tell master. Princess Jin forced her emotions to calm down, and was afraid that Zhao Feng would fall asleep again. Don't worry, I won't fall asleep soon. Zhao Feng had a very clear understanding of his current situation. Moments later, in a secret room in the depths of a cave, Zhao Feng and Old Su sat opposite each other. Princess Jin poured tea for the two, and left the secret room politely. She obviously knew that this level of discussion wasn't something she could participate in. Zhao Feng, thank you for helping me. I didn't think that the little 13 countries would give birth to a genius like you. Of course, I know why you came. Chapter 452. Of course, this old man knows why you've come. After expressing his gratitude and admiration, Old Su quickly changed the topic and went straight to the point. He was obviously worried that Zhao Feng might fall asleep at any moment. Too much pleasantries would only waste precious time. Oh, Old Su, please give me some pointers. Zhao Feng revealed some interest and was very satisfied with Old Su's style. Cough cough. Old Su paused slightly and circulated his qi of true spirit to suppress his old injuries. At the same time, he inspected Zhao Feng, the overwhelming prodigy who had dominated the sacred true dragon gathering several months ago. Princess Jin obviously didn't hide anything from her master about Zhao Feng's achievements in the sacred true dragon gathering. Elder Su was quite shocked when he heard this shocking news. Even now he still hadn't calmed down. Old Su gave Zhao Feng a deep glance and knew that prodigies like Zhao Feng, who had suppressed dozens of generations, would definitely control the fate of the continent in the future, as long as they weren't killed. Maybe in the future, Zhao Feng would be on the same level as those legendary figures, such as the Scarlet Moon Religion Patriarch and Sword Saint Yi Wuxia. Firstly, the Iron Dragon Alliance is our common enemy. I believe Brother Zhao won't doubt this. Old Su finally spoke, but didn't make a conclusion. That's right. Zhao Feng nodded his head faintly. From this, it could be seen how he pointed his spear at the Iron Dragon Alliance as soon as he returned to the cloud area. If I'm not wrong, you returned to the 13 countries to save your sect and your masters. Old Su said calmly. Zhao Feng smiled and nodded his head, signaling Old Su to continue. In reality, as long as one understood Zhao Feng's past and past, it wouldn't be hard to guess this. However, you're alone and want to use the Dragon Killing Alliance to understand and deal with the Iron Dragon Alliance. Therefore, you'll find us. Old Su smiled as he looked at Zhao Feng. This time, Zhao Feng didn't nod or deny it. Then, may I ask what suggestion Elder Su can give me? Zhao Feng smiled faintly. His sapphire left eye shone with a watery light, making him seem gentle and refined. Elder Su suddenly realized that he couldn't see through this youth. But he would not hide his thoughts. My advice to you is to leave Cloud City as soon as possible. Old Su's voice was harsh, but it did not lose its sincerity. Leave Cloud immediately. Elder Su's advice to Zhao Feng was only 4 words. Why? Zhao Feng was a little surprised. The most rational thing to do is to immediately return to the power behind you and cultivate in seclusion for several years. When you've truly matured, everything will change. At the very least, you have to be able to bring in enough reinforcements. Old Su said solemnly. Zhao Feng was stunned and could not help but ponder over the meaning behind Su Lao's words. Suddenly, he smiled in surprise and had a better impression of Elder Su. Old Su's words were straightforward and sincere. When he knew of Zhao Feng's glory at the sacred True Dragon Gathering, Old Su didn't ask him to join the Dragon Killing Alliance, and instead urged Zhao Feng to leave the cloud area. It was obvious that Old Su was worried that a new prodigy like Zhao Feng would die too early and leave regrets. Old Su just needs to tell me how to save the Broken Moon clan and the Iron Dragon Alliance's true strength. Zhao Feng didn't linger on this question and quickly changed the topic. Old Su wasn't surprised and smiled instead. How could a top prodigy like Zhao Feng give up so easily? However, Old Su was confident that as long as Zhao Feng was reasonable, he could convince him. You might not know this, but the 13 clans are not only part of the Iron Dragon Alliance in name, they also signed a blood pact 2 years ago. Blood pact. Zhao Feng's expression changed slightly. Back then, he was chased by Hai Yun Master and left the 13 countries in a hurry, so he didn't know the details of the surrender. Zhao Feng only knew that the Dark Serene Palace betrayed the 13 clans and seemed to have connections with the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. As for the other 12 clans, they all surrendered when True Lord Taishao arrived. Back then at the Dragon Concealing Lake, the elders of the 12 clans all signed a blood pact and made their forces subordinate to the Iron Dragon Alliance. You should know the power of the blood pact. This is a power witnessed by the heavens and earth. Old Su sighed as he spoke up to hear. This means that even if I return to the Broken Moon clan, my master won't help me. On the contrary, my return will put him in a difficult situation? Zhao Feng's expression was solemn. That's right. If you want to save the Broken Moon clan, the only way is to attack the Iron Dragon Alliance's base. As long as the Iron Dragon Alliance is destroyed, the Blood Pact will lose its power. This is the simplest solution. Old Su couldn't help but look at Zhao Feng as he spoke up to hear. Directly attacking the base of the Iron Dragon Alliance and destroying it was a bold and unrealistic idea. The reason why Old Su brought up this unrealistic, but only method was because he wanted Zhao Feng to back off. However, Zhao Feng's expression didn't change. When Old Su suggested this unrealistic method, his eyes seemed to move a little. After a moment of silence, how strong is the Iron Dragon Alliance? Zhao Feng finally asked the question he cared about the most. How strong? Old Su shook his head and smiled. The entire cloud area has 2 strong countries, 13 countries and many clans. The Iron Dragon Alliance has the 4 palace lords, the 36 core elders, and many other experts. They can cover the sky in the cloud area, and their power has even spread to the surrounding strong countries. Furthermore, this is only the known forces. The Iron Dragon Alliance has the support of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, but no one knows how many hidden forces and experts there are. The 4 palace lords and the 36 core elders. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he seemed to understand the upper echelon of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Not long ago, the 2 core elders of the Iron Dragon Alliance forced the Dragon Killing Alliance to this level with just 2 sub-palaces. The 36 core elders each controlled a sub-palace. Above the sub-palaces were the palace lords. Each palace lord controlled 9 sub-palaces. Palace lords were definitely at the True Lord rank. True Lord Taishao, who made the 13 clans submit, is one of the 4 palace lords of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Old Su briefly mentioned the 4 palace kings and the stronger core elders. 4 palace lords? What Zhao Feng really cared about was the 4 palace lords, which included the experts of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. half the time it took to make tea later. Thank you for your advice, Old Su. Directly attacking the Iron Dragon Alliance's Yellow Dragon lair is the only, simplest, and most direct way. Zhao Feng slowly got up with a smile. Old Su paused. Did Zhao Feng listen to his advice? But he felt that something was wrong. From the beginning to the end, Zhao Feng wasn't scared at all, and his tone was filled with confidence. Just as Zhao Feng was about to leave. Wait, you're not leaving the cloud area? Of course not. The blue-haired youth's footsteps paused. Have you already found reinforcements? Old Su guessed. I'm enough. Zhao Feng laughed and continued to walk away. What? Old Su was dazed as he pointed at Zhao Feng. His finger trembled slightly, as if he was so angry that he couldn't even make a sound. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Old Su took a deep breath and pointed at Zhao Feng. You're the strongest, overwhelming prodigy of this generation. But arrogance and ignorance will only push you into the abyss. Zhao Feng ignored him, his steps exuding an incomparably powerful will. Stop. Old Su roared as his white hair blew in the wind. The aura of a true lord rank resonated with the heaven-earth Yuan Qi, and created a scene. The aura of a true lord rank. Although Old Su's strength had dropped, his mental energy level was still there. He early stage true lord rank. Is this what Old Su was at his peak? The blue-haired youth in his field of vision smiled. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into a vast ocean and an unfathomable abyss. A wisp of indiscernible mental energy permeated the small secret chamber, giving the illusion that the entire space had been frozen. Old Su's body trembled. Under that aura, he felt a sense of pressure that made it difficult for him to move. This mental energy aura was stronger than any true lord rank he had seen before. The opponent's soul was so strong that it seemed to be able to contain a part of heaven and earth. Old Su's expression went from shock to fear, and then to joy and disbelief. Finally, Old Su looked deeply at the youth in front of him with shock and respect in his eyes. I didn't think that your cultivation had reached such a level. I've indeed underestimated your strength. However, Old Su also asked his own question. Your soul and cultivation are so strong that it should be easy for you to break through to the true lord rank. Furthermore, you won't be able to shake the Iron Dragon Alliance with just your battle power alone. Zhao Feng smiled but didn't reply. If it wasn't for the change in his left eye, he should have broken through to the true lord rank by now. Shua, shua. A dark pearl appeared in Zhao Feng's hand, and he flicked it. In an instant, two dark figures gave off terrifying auras, as they stood on either side of Zhao Feng. Within the mist, the two dark silver ghost corpses stood on either side of Zhao Feng like death guards. True lord rank. How is this possible? Even strong countries and sacred lands can't raise a true lord rank ghost corpse. Old Su's figure almost tripped as waves of shock appeared in his heart. Zhao Feng inspected the two dark silver ghost corpses with satisfaction. After being nurtured in the 10,000 ghost pearl for a month or two, the cultivation of the two ghost corpses was close to the early stage true lord rank. This 10,000 ghost pearl was one of the gifts that the purple saint partial spirit gave to Zhao Feng. This pearl was the sacred weapon of the 10,000 ghost emperor. In the past, the 10,000 ghost great emperor had nurtured an army of 10,000 ghosts within this pearl, and swept through all directions. With his own strength, he had annihilated a few two-star sections. Shua. The two true lord rank ghost corpses were quickly put away. Old Su still hadn't recovered from his shock. It was obvious that Zhao Feng's shock had overturned his 100 or 200 years of experience. This is just the appetizer. When my eye bloodline fully awakens, anything is possible. Chapter 453. Within the secret room, after a moment of shock and fear, Old Su managed to regain his composure, but he couldn't help but feel defeated. Back then, he was one of the strongest experts in the cloud area, and controlled a strong country with the power of a true lord rank. He could affect the fate of the cloud area. In Old Su's eyes, the cloud country where Zhao Feng came from was just a small place. In his eyes, the Broken Moon clan was just a small clan. It wasn't hard to imagine Old Su's glory back then. In his youth, he was definitely one of the top prodigies in the cloud area. At this moment in time, Old Su experienced shock, doubt, defeat, and many other emotions. Admiration and respect appeared on Old Su's face as he looked at the blue-haired youth in front of him. This was a world where the strong ruled, regardless of age or age. Zhao Feng's achievements in the sacred True Dragon Gathering and his current strength made even Old Su, one of the strongest in the cloud area, look up to him. Thinking about the advice he gave to Zhao Feng not long ago, Old Su's face went red. Just the strength that Zhao Feng displayed was equivalent to at least 3 True Lord ranks, including the 2 Dark Silver Ghost corpses. Old Su didn't doubt that Zhao Feng didn't have the strength of a True Lord rank, since he could control 2 True Lord rank ghost corpses. Furthermore, reaching the True Lord rank wasn't difficult for Zhao Feng at all. Old Su, I'll return to the 13 countries after I sleep one more time. Zhao Feng's eyelids were slightly heavy. He estimated that he could hold on for another 4 hours before falling asleep again. Return to the 13 countries? What's the point of doing this? Old Su couldn't help but ask. The 13 clans were now subordinates of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and First Elder of the Broken Moon Clan, and company had signed a blood contract. If Zhao Feng returned to the Broken Moon Clan, it would put First Elder in a difficult situation. I'm going back to the Broken Moon Clan to kill someone. Zhao Feng's warm eyes suddenly turned into a cold killing intent that could make anyone at the True Spirit Realm tremble. The switch between ice and water was completed with just one thought. If you need any help, I and the Dragon Killing Alliance will do our best to assist you. Old Su sighed softly, knowing that he couldn't stop Zhao Feng. Whether it was because they were enemies or because Zhao Feng had helped them out, Elder Su was duty-bound to do so. Zhao Feng thought for a moment and gave 2 points. First, I hope that Old Su can help me find out the headquarters of the Iron Dragon Alliance, the distribution of forces, and the whereabouts of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. Secondly, when I deal with the Iron Dragon Alliance, the Dragon Killing Alliance will clean up the mess and reshuffle the cloud area. Old Su wasn't surprised by the first point. The second point made Old Su's heart tremble. Zhao Feng's gaze was so distant. Before even attacking the Iron Dragon Alliance, he was already thinking about how to deal with the aftermath. This was especially so for Zhao Feng to say the word shuffle so casually. This made Old Su's heart skip a beat. He found it hard to estimate the foundation of this youth before him. Zhao Feng could have asked for reinforcements from the Canopy Great Country, but he didn't do so. After all, the cloud area was Zhao Feng's home. He decided to take care of it himself and not borrow the help of external forces. Unfortunately, I'm old and my foundation has been injured. I can only give you some help. Old Su was slightly ashamed and powerless. Furthermore, Zhao Feng was alone. Although he was surprised that Zhao Feng was strong, he still felt that Zhao Feng wasn't reliable. After all, the Iron Dragon Alliance was a monster that ruled the cloud area. Facing the human wave tactic of countless Ascended Realm experts and True Spirit Realm experts, wasn't Zhao Feng a bit too weak? Of course, what Old Su didn't know was that Zhao Feng had ignored the human wave tactic. And, since Old Su is so considerate and didn't hesitate to use the Dragon Killing Alliance to help, I also have a token of appreciation. Zhao Feng gently touched the ancient metal ring. Wang! A drop of mysterious green liquid floated in the air and radiated a thick aura of life, as if it was a mother's body. This is the elixir of life? Old Su's heart shook before revealing an excited and joyful expression. The elixir of life was formed under extremely harsh conditions. It was almost impossible for it to form on the Azure Flower continent. Zhao Feng's elixir of life was obtained from Yi Yinyu in the Purple Saint Ruins. The elixir of life was the essence of life from the life-returning grass. Zhao Feng had first traded for 2 drops of the elixir of life from Yi Yinyu, and then the little thieving cat's betrayal, and the life-returning grass from Yi Yinyu. The life-returning grass was given to the towering tree Yao to recover from the heavy injuries left by the Void God protection. However, at the time, Zhao Feng had been a little careful, and he had taken away the remaining 2 drops of elixir of life from the life-returning grass. Therefore, Zhao Feng currently had 4 drops of the elixir of life. One of them had been reserved by the mysterious scarlet-haired elder from the Iron Blood religion to repay a favor. As for the remaining 3 drops, Zhao Feng planned to give one to Old Su. After all, Old Su was the leader of the dragon-killing alliance. If he could recover to his peak strength, it would be of great help to Zhao Feng. Elixir of life. Looks like you must have returned from the inheritance. Old Su's voice trembled, and his face was filled with excitement. A legendary elixir like the elixir of life had long since disappeared from the Azure Flower continent. It could only be obtained from the outside world. Zhao Feng smiled and signaled Old Su to drink the elixir of life. Zhao Feng had seen Old Su's injuries through his god's spiritual eye. His injuries had seeped into a cultivator's source of true spirit. This kind of injury was extremely hard to recover from, and he couldn't rashly use his chi of true spirit, or else his injuries would worsen, and even cause his cultivation to drop. However, Zhao Feng was confident in the effects of the elixir of life. In theory, even if a sovereign was heavily injured, the elixir of life would have a good effect. Old Su's face was full of gratitude, and he immediately sat down to recover. Half the time it took to make tea later, Old Su's chi of true spirit suddenly became stronger. Zhao Feng had a smile on his face as he saw Old Su's source of true spirit heal. In just this short amount of time, Old Su's source of true spirit had been mostly healed. He believed that in less than half a month, Old Su would be able to recover to his peak. Zhao Feng didn't stay any longer, and left the secret room to return to his original place. 2 hours later, the next time I wake up, I'll return to the 13 countries. Zhao Feng closed his eyes tiredly. Under Old Su's orders, Princess Jean took good care of him. With her noble status and talent to participate in the sacred True Dragon gathering, taking care of a youth wasn't just condescending in the eyes of others, it was self-humiliation. However, Princess Jin's eyes were filled with joy. Her face blushed from time to time. There was a sliver of yearning towards this. Many members of the dragon-killing alliance, including Old Jiang and Third Highness, were puzzled. Of course, they didn't know Zhao Feng's true identity. In the blink of an eye, another half a month passed. The new stronghold of the dragon-killing alliance was located near a deep ravine. At a certain moment, a shocking aura of true spirit appeared near this ravine, and all the heaven-earth yuan qi within dozens of miles resonated with it. The sky above his head was dyed with a layer of scarlet-green light, and the clouds roiled. The invisible mental pressure and heaven and earth phenomena made the hearts of the dragon-killing alliance members jump. Many of them felt like they were suffocating. True Lord rank aura. It's completely the aura of a true Lord rank. It's Old Su. Great, could Old Su's injuries have healed? The members of the dragon-killing alliance were overjoyed and celebrated. Only Princess Jean was slightly surprised. She knew Master's injuries the best, and they should have been almost impossible to heal. Why was Master able to recover his peak True Lord rank aura in just half a month? Could all of this be? Princess Jin's eyes turned and landed on the sleeping blue-haired youth. The only person she could think of was this miraculous youth. Maybe it was because of the heaven-earth yuan qi resonating with him, but the blue-haired youth slowly opened his eyes. Old Su, congratulations on coming out of seclusion. Zhao Feng's light laughter sounded from near the ravine. Princess Jin's vision blurred, and Zhao Feng disappeared from her sight. In the next instant, on the peak of the ravine, a gentle youth with blue hair and an old man with white eyebrows in a green robe stood side by side, chatting and laughing with each other. Princess Jean looked at the scene on the peak and was shocked. She suddenly realized that she had underestimated Zhao Feng's level. Zhao Feng was only at the true mystic rank in the sacred True Dragon gathering. What level has he reached after coming out of the inheritance? Princess Jin's heart couldn't calm down. The sleeping youth that she always stared at seemed to be in the clouds, and was filled with suspense. Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, Old Su. Near the ravine, the members of the dragon-killing alliance bowed in the direction of the mountain peak and congratulated. Hee, it's all thanks to His Excellency Zhao Feng. He brought hope to the dragon-killing alliance, and I believe that his miracles will continue in the cloud area. Old Su's face was red as he slowly raised his hand and expressed his gratitude, and respect to the blue-haired youth. The hearts of the dragon-killing alliance members below shook, including Old Jiang, Third Highness, and company who knew Zhao Feng. At the same time, dozens of miles away, in the sky filled with clouds, a dark red ship that was 10 to 20 zhang long floated in the air. It was surrounded by a layer of faint blood-colored wind, giving off a strange gloomy pressure. I didn't think that old monster Su had already recovered to the true lord rank. A raspy voice sounded from the front of the ship. It was an ugly human that looked like a zombie. His entire body was covered in dark silver stripes, and his entire body flowed with blood. It was the Blood Corpse Protector. Palace Lord, we have the advantage in overall strength, and old monster Su has just recovered from his illness. He's definitely not your match. There were 2 or 3 true mystic rank experts near the front of the ship, and at least 10 true spirit realm experts. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's eyes flashed with a blood-red light as he stared at the blue-haired youth next to old Su. It's indeed him. Palace Lord, let me deal with this Zhao Feng. A cold youth in black said in a low tone. He was one of the 3 true mystic rank experts in front of the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. This black-robed youth's eyes were deep and mysterious, as if they were a scarlet-black abyss. He gazed at Zhao Feng on the distant mountain peak, his face surging with an irrepressible desire to fight. Lin Tong, if I remember correctly, your heavenly absent I lost to that brat at the alliance banquet of the 13 clans 2 years ago. A true mystic rank next to him joked. Hee. Lin Tong just returned from the Scarlet Moon inheritance not long ago. Even the Palace King is interested in his strength. Chapter 454. On the dark red ship, Lin Tong, wearing a black robe, became the focus of everyone's gazes. The experts of the Iron Dragon Alliance were curious about this new face with an eye bloodline. However, only a small number of people knew Lin Tong's background. Back at the 13 clan gathering, Lin Tong was one of the 4 stars alongside Song Yue, Su Zixuan, and Ao Yuetian. At that time, Lin Tong's terror was deeply imprinted in the hearts of the younger generation. No one was willing to fight him. However, both Lin Tong and Song Yue, the number 1 female sword genius of the 13 clans, had become a supporting village. And that person was on a mountain far away. Zhao Feng, 2 years ago, I lost to you at the 13 clan gathering. Now that I've returned from the Scarlet Moon inheritance, I'll take back all the humiliation I suffered. Lin Tong stood at the bow of the ship. His eyes were crimson black and distorted, mysterious and deep. A cold mental energy aura spread through the air, and made the hearts of the experts on the ship go cold. At the same time, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's gaze slowly retracted. He was now sure that Zhao Feng was that youth from back then. Facing Lin Tong's request to fight, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord shook his head. You're not his match. Lin Tong's expression froze, and his eyes were filled with surprise and unwillingness. However, the person standing in front of him was one of the 4 pillars of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and a protector of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. No one dared to question the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's words. His experience and level exceeded the Cloud Area's understanding. Just as Lin Tong was about to speak, the blue-haired youth on the mountain turned his head and glanced in the direction of the ship with a smile that wasn't a smile. The experts at the True Spirit Realm were in the air, and their eyes were extremely sharp. Seeing this scene, their hearts shook. The youth's left eye was as deep as the ocean, blue and as warm as water. Zhao Feng's actions attracted the attention of old Su. Looks like my aura at the True Lord rank was too high profile, and attracted the attention of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Old Su sighed. Zhao Feng knew that this wasn't the only reason. After returning to the Cloud Area, he had brazenly issued a challenge to the Iron Dragon Alliance. The Blood Scythe Butcher, the 18th Elder, and the 10th Core Elder had all fallen because of Zhao Feng. It wasn't surprising that Zhao Feng's threat and challenge to the Iron Dragon Alliance had attracted the attention of the higher-ups. What really surprised Zhao Feng was that he actually met more than one acquaintance this time. Zhao Feng naturally had a deep impression of the Blood Corpse Branch Protector. Back in the Scarlet Moon Cave, it could be said to be a thrilling battle of wits and courage. As for Lin Tong, he was a strong opponent during the 13 clan gathering 2 years ago. The scene of Zhao Feng, Lin Tong, and Song Yue working together at the 13 clans conference was still fresh in their minds. Old Su, lead the alliance members to retreat. I will play with them. Zhao Feng smiled faintly. When he woke up this time, the swelling pain in Zhao Feng's left eye was already very light. Within the dimension of his left eye, the water in the pond was 10 yards wide, and the ripples on the surface of the pond warmed his soul. Zhao Feng's eye bloodline power was even more refined than before, and his control over it had reached a whole new level. Okay, I'll be responsible for retreating. Be careful. Old Su had a certain level of confidence in Zhao Feng's strength and didn't object. After all, the forces of the Iron Dragon Alliance were extremely strong. Apart from Old Su, the rest of them might restrict Zhao Feng's movements. Shua. Old Su's figure flashed and disappeared from the mountain. His voice resounded across the mountain as he led the members of the Dragon-Killing Alliance to retreat. On the mountain, only Zhao Feng was left standing with his hands behind his back. His blue hair blew in the wind, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Palace King. The remaining members of the Dragon-Killing Alliance are retreating. There's still one more person. That brat's staying behind to cover their retreat. Chaos broke out on the dark red ship. Everyone from the Dragon-Killing Alliance was retreating, including the true Lord rank Old Su. Only the blue-haired youth remained at the peak of the mountain. He was calm and composed as he faced the people on the ship from afar. This scene caused Lin Tong's heart to skip a beat. At this moment, he couldn't see what level Zhao Feng was at, and the latter's aura was as deep as the ocean. However, just the boldness that the other party displayed was enough to make Lin Tong feel inferior. If they were in Lin Tong's shoes, he would naturally run as far as he could if he were to face such a situation. How would he dare to stay? On the other hand, his opponent from the past had calmly stayed behind to face the Iron Dragon Alliance. Lin Tong wasn't the only one who was moved by Lin Yun's boldness. The other experts on the ship were bewildered as well. What an arrogant brat. He's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Palace King. Let's start a lightning-fast battle and capture this brat. The remaining members of the Dragon-Killing Alliance won't be able to run far. Some of the true Spirit Realm experts on the ship were filled with killing intent after the surprise passed. Zhao Feng's arrogant actions enraged everyone from the Iron Dragon Alliance. However, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's expression was dark and filled with killing intent, but he didn't immediately attack. Protector Blood Corpse, long time no see. How have you been? At the peak of the mountain, the blue-haired youth's laughter was as warm as the wind. It was so clear. At this moment in time, the Dragon-Killing Alliance was also retreating. Both friend and foe could hear Zhao Feng's voice clearly. What's going on? Zhao Feng and the Blood Corpse Palace Lord know each other? Both friend and foe felt that something was wrong. From Zhao Feng's tone, it seemed that he had interacted with the Blood Corpse Palace Lord before. Some even suspected that this seemingly young youth was an old monster that had been asleep for many years. On the ship, the gazes of the entire Iron Dragon Alliance landed on the Blood Corpse Palace Lord and waited for his orders. Old Monster Su has recovered his strength. It's not realistic for him to wipe out the remaining members of the Dragon-Killing Alliance. However, since this brat is the only one left, we'll stay and play with him. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's raspy voice was extremely slow. The hearts of the experts at the True Spirit Realm shook. Those familiar with the Blood Corpse Palace Lord would know that this was a sign that he was about to go all out. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord was extremely vengeful. Once he had his eyes on someone, he would slowly torture his opponent bit by bit. However, wasn't it a bit too much to mobilize the top forces of 2 sub-palaces and a palace lord just to deal with a rising star? Zhao Feng, I admire your courage for daring to stay behind. However, you'll regret your decision for the rest of your life. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord waved the blood-colored flag. Whoosh! The dark red ship stirred up a violent blood-colored gust of wind as it charged toward the summit of the mountain fearlessly. Pass down my order. Capture Zhao Feng alive. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord stood at the head of the ship and didn't immediately attack. Even he couldn't see through Zhao Feng's mental energy aura from afar. Although he couldn't judge how strong Zhao Feng was, he was sure that Lin Tong wouldn't be his match. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have battle power close to the true lord rank, how would Zhao Feng dare to stay behind? Understood. The 3 true mystic rank experts on the ship immediately obeyed. They didn't understand what enmity the Blood Corpse Palace Lord had with Zhao Feng for him to use such a large force, just to settle a personal grudge. Palace Lord, I'll stall his eye bloodline. Lin Tong volunteered. Everyone was familiar with the characteristics of a rank 1 bounty hunter. The fate of the 10th and 18th Corps elders was proof of how terrifying Zhao Feng's eye bloodline was. This was why the Alliance had sent Lin Tong this time. So. With Lin Tong at the lead, the 3 true mystic rank experts flew off the ship and closed in on Zhao Feng. Looking down from above, one would see that the 3 true mystic rank groups had formed a semicircle around the mountain. Master. The Iron Dragon Alliance Palace Lord has moved out, but Zhao Feng is staying behind by himself. I'm afraid. Princess Jean looked back as she retreated. Seeing the blue-haired youth face off against the Iron Dragon Alliance's army by himself, she felt uneasy and couldn't bear to see him do this. Jean, don't worry. Zhao Feng is just playing with them, and I'll take care of him. Old Su smiled faintly. Playing with them? Princess Jin's eyes were full of surprise. She couldn't imagine that such words would come from her master's mouth. Right at this moment, the battle between the 2 sides was about to start. Scarlet Demon Moon Eye. Lin Tong was a few miles away. His eyes were twisted, and a blood-red crescent moon shape could be vaguely seen in them. Slaughter, blood, gloominess, brutality. All sorts of negative and dark auras seemed to be condensed in the faintly discernible blood moon in the pupil, transforming into an invisible force that could slash through the void. At this moment in time, the true spirit realm experts next to Lin Tong trembled. A blood-colored crescent moon pierced through the clouds and slashed toward the blue-haired youth in the air. Lin Tong's every action obviously didn't escape Zhao Feng's eyes. He had to admit that Lin Tong's eye bloodline had reached an unparalleled level in terms of skill and power. This Scarlet Demon Moon Eye was obviously a profound eye bloodline skill that gathered all sorts of negative mental energy into a power of the Tao of blood that could corrode one's soul. If it was someone at the true spirit realm, or even some at the true mystic rank, their soul would be instantly shattered by this move. In terms of the power of his eye bloodline, Lin Tong was even on par with the 3 great eyes from the Sacred True Dragon Gathering several months ago. The successors of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering were on par. Shua. The Scarlet Demon Moon Eye's powerful mental energy blood moon slashed into Zhao Feng's soul and instantly corroded his mental energy world. Lin Tong and the other 2 at the true mystic rank revealed joyful expressions. Unexpectedly, Zhao Feng remained motionless on the summit. He didn't defend or retreat. What's going on? Lin Tong's figure suddenly froze. Soon after, the surprise on his face turned into intense shock and panic. The Scarlet Demon Moon Eye just then was like a rock sinking into the ocean, not even causing a ripple. Zhao Feng completely ignored Lin Tong's attack. In the dimension of his left eye, the dark blue eye bloodline in the pond started to ripple and absorb the blood-colored crescent moon. The softest thing in the world was water. The power of water, encompassing and absorbing, was vast and boundless. Lin Tong's attack just now was like a pebble thrown into a lake. It didn't cause any harm to him. Chapter 455. He directly ignored my Scarlet Demon Moon Eye. Could his soul and eye power have reached the level of being able to contain the ocean? Lin Tong's body froze in midair as shock spread across his face. Zhao Feng didn't even defend against the eye bloodline attack just then and ignored it. Simply put, Lin Tong's eye bloodline wasn't enough to break through Zhao Feng's mental energy defense. So. At the same time, the other 2 true mystic ranks led their respective groups and charged toward Zhao Feng. According to the plan, Lin Tong was responsible for restraining Zhao Feng's eye bloodline, while the other 2 true mystic ranks attacked. Blade of Wind and Lightning. Zhao Feng lightly exclaimed as a blade of wind condensed in his palm. He used a unique method to control the heaven-earth wind lightning yuan qi. Not good retreat. The expression of the Blood Corpse Palace Lord changed dramatically. It was clear that with his insight, he could naturally see how powerful Zhao Feng's every move was, and the intent of his battle skills was extraordinary. However, his warning was a bit too late. It could be said that Zhao Feng's attack speed had reached a level where even his warning couldn't be avoided. Wang, the wind blade, which was surrounded by lightning, split into two. After breaking through the air, it suddenly blossomed with a dazzling and sharp lightning. It reached a length of 70 to 80 feet, and did not dissipate. In that instant, the sharp howl of the wind pierced into the soul. Bam! Bam! Before the two true mystic ranks could react, their heads and blood splattered everywhere. The entire process happened in just a few breaths. Lin Tong's attack had just been completed, and was ignored by Zhao Feng. Immediately following that, Zhao Feng's casual attack killed the two true mystic rank leaders. This scene caused Lin Tong and the other elites of the Iron Dragon Alliance to take in a cold breath. Lin Tong couldn't help but hiccup. Not only had Zhao Feng's eye bloodline reached a level that he couldn't see through, his skills were also terrifying. The two true mystic ranks just now were both core elders of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and were ranked within the top 15. If it were Lin Tong, without using his eye bloodline techniques, he would at most be able to fight to a draw with one of them. However, these two powerhouses were killed by Zhao Feng as easily as slicing carrots. Haha, loser, hurry up and die. Zhao Feng stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking ahead. A loser. Lin Tong's heart trembled. He felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Humiliation and defeat enveloped his heart. You. Lin Tong gritted his teeth and raised his head, preparing to fight to the death one last time. However, the moment he raised his head, he was slightly stunned, because the blue-haired figure on the mountain peak hadn't even glanced at him, including this moment. Junior, don't be so arrogant. In the past, when Japan had just recovered, you took advantage of it. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's hateful voice came from behind. As soon as these words came out, both sides were stunned. Well, what's going on? Many people were slightly taken aback. Lin Tong's hands trembled. His humiliation was mixed with embarrassment and shock. A loser. It turned out that Zhao Feng's words were targeted at the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. As for Lin Tong, he was ignored from the beginning. The opponent that Zhao Feng had locked onto was the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. It was hard to imagine that the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, one of the giants of the alliance, was someone that Zhao Feng had once defeated. Therefore, this was why Zhao Feng had such a mocking smile. So that's how it is. Zhao Feng, it looks like I've still underestimated you. Elder Su, who had retreated a distance away, didn't leave immediately. Instead, he wanted to take care of Zhao Feng. However, he found that he was just being paranoid. Only now did Elder Su understand what Zhao Feng meant by playing around. Junior, let me see how much you've improved in 2 years. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord turned into a streak of purple and blood-colored light, and charged toward Zhao Feng. Whoosh! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's speed was as fast as lightning. Many people present were unable to see his trajectory. In just a few blinks of an eye, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord arrived in front of Zhao Feng. A heavy aura pressed down on Zhao Feng like an invisible mountain. So this Blood Corpse Division Protector is the same as Mo Gan of the Black Cliff Palace. They both cultivate the Corpse Tao. However, this Blood Corpse Palace Lord has merged with the Tao of Blood. Zhao Feng could see everything with his left eye. In terms of strength, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord and Mo Gan shouldn't be much different, but the former was obviously more cunning. Crack! The mountain peak, which was close to 100 zhang tall, exploded with a loud rumble, causing billowing dust and smoke to rise. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's terrifying palm split apart the mountain, and the power was extremely concentrated. Otherwise, the mountain would have collapsed. Boom! A bolt of lightning whistled through the air above Zhao Feng's head. Zhao Feng's figure turned into lightning, and pierced through a radius of 1 to 2 miles. Arg! Arg! Blood-curdling screams came from the vicinity of the blood-colored ship. Every time the wind-piercing and lightning rumbling in the void moved, it would reap 1 or 2 lives. accompanied by blood sputtering. "Bastard! Hand over your life." The Blood Corpse Palace Lord was enraged as he turned into a streak of purple and blood-colored light and chased after Zhao Feng. However, he had no advantage over Zhao Feng in terms of speed. Zhao Feng's figure flashed through the air as he comprehended the Wind Lightning Stone tablet in his mind. The Wind Lightning Stone tablet was the inheritance of the Wind Lightning Emperor. It was said to be the fastest emperor's inheritance. Zhao Feng's mental energy level was only higher than the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's. Although his cultivation hadn't broken through to the true Lord rank yet, his ability to summon Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi wasn't far off. Suddenly, Zhao Feng's speed had reached a peak, and he completely ignored the Blood Corpse Palace Lord as he slaughtered the elites of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Aya! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord was enraged and almost lost his mind. He could only watch as Zhao Feng killed his subordinates one by one. What made him feel helpless was that Zhao Feng's speed was always a bit faster than his, and he seemed to be able to move with ease. Zhao Feng's speed easily surpassed the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's, and with the god's spiritual eye's control, even one or two more Blood Corpse Palace Lords wouldn't be able to stop him. In the next instant, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's subordinates were almost all dead. Apart from Lin Tong, all the upper echelon members of the True Spirit Realm had been slaughtered. When Zhao Feng killed his targets, there was no emotion in his eyes at all. It was as if he was facing a skeleton. What made the Blood Corpse Palace Lord even angrier was that when Zhao Feng killed his subordinates, he would occasionally close his eyes as if he was comprehending something. Preposterous! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's lungs were about to explode from anger. It seemed that Zhao Feng was using his subordinates to train his skills. In just a short span of 20 breaths, Zhao Feng's control of the power of wind lightning had improved significantly. In his head, the surface of the tattered wind thunder steel was surrounded by even more colorful electric patterns. The meaning of the patterns was deduced and connected to a desolate, broken wind thunder world. Zhao Feng could only comprehend the tip of the iceberg at this point. Shua! At a certain moment, Zhao Feng found that apart from the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, there was no one else. Only Lin Tong's trembling figure was hidden in the cracks of the cliff. Lin Tong understood that Zhao Feng must have done this on purpose, or else he wouldn't have been left alive. Blood Corpse Palace Lord, your subordinates are all dead. A playful smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's expression was grim, and the hatred and killing intent in his eyes seemed to materialize. However, he didn't lose his mind. After a short moment of rage, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord calmed down. He had investigated Zhao Feng's eye bloodline and knew that it was hard to defend against it. Zhao Feng specialized in mental energy illusions and mental energy attacks. At this moment in time, the Dragon-Killing Alliance had retreated. As the dust settled, only Zhao Feng and the Blood Corpse Palace Lord were left facing each other. After staring at each other for a while, the two suddenly attacked. Bam! Shua! A purple and blood-colored light, and a ball of lightning clashed in the air. Bam! 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 The clash between the two was extremely concentrated, and the shockwave didn't exceed 20 yards. In just a few flashes, the two figures separated. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's eyes were filled with hatred as scorch marks were left on his body. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's physical strength is really strong. It's on the same level as Mo Gan from the Black Cliff Palace. Attacks from True Lord ranks can't do anything to him. Zhao Feng murmured in his heart. In the clash of the two, Zhao Feng had the advantage in speed. However, in terms of pure strength, Zhao Feng didn't have the advantage at all. All in all, he still had the initiative, and the Blood Corpse Palace Lord could only take a beating. Without using the god's spiritual eye, it looks like I'll have to break through to the True Lord rank to increase my battle power. Zhao Feng's heart was clear. So, after a slight pause, Zhao Feng's figure disappeared once more. Wind howled and thunder howled in the air. Zhao Feng's control over the power of wind lightning was becoming more and more adept, and his speed and power were both increasing. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord howled. His powerful secret techniques were easily countered by Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye, Speed was the only thing that couldn't be countered. Once Zhao Feng had the advantage in speed and the control of the god's spiritual eye, he was basically undefeatable. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's defense was extremely strong. If it was a normal True Lord rank, Zhao Feng would have killed him already. If it wasn't for the fact that the Blood Corpse Palace Lord cultivated the Tao of Blood, Zhao Feng would have been able to instantly kill him with his dark silver ghost corpse. Lightning Fire God's Eye. Zhao Feng's left eye suddenly turned azure, and with a half-transparent flame of wind and lightning landed on the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. The current Lightning Fire God's Eye, in its azure state, formed the flames of wind and lightning, making its attacks even more violent. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord screamed as lightning and fire wreaked havoc around his body. The attack pierced through both the physical and mental energy dimensions. What a terrifying offensive eye bloodline technique. Zhao Feng's eye bloodline can withstand it? Lin Tong, who was in the mountain crack, had a shocking expression on his face when he saw this peerlessly powerful eye flame attack. He who cultivated eye bloodline techniques naturally knew that the more powerful an eye bloodline technique was, the more it required the eye bloodline to be able to withstand it. Furthermore, what Zhao Feng used wasn't just a simple eye bloodline, but a Lightning Fire God's Eye. Lightning and fire countered the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's Tao of Blood Corpse. Seeing the Lightning Fire God's Eye force the Blood Corpse Palace Lord into a life-and-death situation, even Zhao Feng was surprised. Chapter 456. In the air. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's blood Tao refined corpse body was covered in a half-transparent lightning, fire, and wind. Lightning and fire crackled and crackled, leaving behind scorch marks. The powerful wind lightning eye flame pierced straight into his soul. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's screams made Lin Tong's heart jump. He couldn't believe that one of the four pillars of the Alliance, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, an old monster from the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, would be forced to such a state by a new star's eye flame. Zhao Feng was surprised by the change in the Lightning Fire God's Eye. After thinking for a while, he understood the reason. The Wind Lightning Stone Tablet, he had comprehended, had merged into his source of true spirit through his root of law. This meant that the flame of true spirit within Zhao Feng's body was becoming closer to the element of wind lightning. His flame of true spirit could become the wind lightning true fire. However, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's strength wasn't to be underestimated. He took the wind lightning eye flame head-on, without any defenses, and didn't die. If it was a weaker True Lord rank, they would have lost a layer of skin, even if they didn't die. Blood Corpse Flame. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's eyes flickered with scarlet flames as his cold voice echoed through the mountains. Whoosh! The Blood Corpse's body, which was covered by the silver-patterned cloth, suddenly burst into a crimson-purple bloody flame. It was dark and heavy, accompanied by an extremely cold wind. Instantly, the scarlet-purple flame covered his body and slowly dissipated the eroding lightning, fire and wind flames. Zhao Feng felt the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's aura rise dramatically. The Corpse Tao True Fire within his body countered his own wind lightning true fire. He snickered coldly and prepared to use another Lightning Fire God's Eye. Even if it couldn't kill the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, it would at least make him panic. However, the moment Zhao Feng circulated his eye bloodline power, he felt a swelling pain and fatigue rise. After all, the god's spiritual eye hadn't fully stabilized yet, so he couldn't use it too much. The wind lightning eye flame that Zhao Feng had just used was extremely taxing on his eye bloodline, so he couldn't keep using it. Even under normal circumstances, Zhao Feng could only use the wind lightning eye flame 3 times. In the short span of 1 or 2 breaths, the flames on the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's body disappeared, and blood flowed on its surface. His wounds quickly healed, and almost no obvious wounds could be seen. What a strong recovery ability! Zhao Feng's expression finally changed. He realized that he had underestimated the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. After all, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord was a protector of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion in the past. He had been revived since the era of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion patriarch. How could his strength be so simple? It was now certain that the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's mastery of the Corpse Tao was stronger than Emogon of the Black Cliff Palace. Emogon came from an enormous 2-star sect. His inheritance and strength couldn't be said to be weak. However, he was only a rising star after all. He was only around 30 years old. On the other hand, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord had lived for several hundred years, and had merged the Blood Tao and Corpse Tao. Corpse Path excelled in defense, immunity to poison, tyrannical strength, and strong survivability. On the other hand, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's corrosive and recovery abilities were strong. When these two were combined, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's battle power would surpass the true Lord rank, and might even be close to the Deputy Patriarch of the Iron Blood religion. Zha. Brat, you think you can kill me with just a measly eye flame? If it was so easy, I would have been killed by the 10 great clans several hundred years ago. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord licked his lips and said darkly. Zhao Feng's expression didn't change as he floated in the air. This situation wasn't out of his expectations. If it was so easy to kill the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, he would feel that it wasn't real. Hee, then let's continue. Zhao Feng laughed instead of being surprised and disappeared with a whoosh. The next instant, lightning flashed through the air and circled around the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. The battle started once again. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord roared in anger. He didn't think that Zhao Feng would be so hard to deal with. With his mastery of the Tao of Blood Corpse, he wasn't afraid of a long battle. However, Zhao Feng's mysterious eye bloodline still made the Blood Corpse Palace Lord uneasy. The Wind Lightning Eye Flame just now didn't seem to do any actual damage to the Blood Corpse Palace Lord, but it had left some hidden injuries in his body, especially his soul. What shocked the Blood Corpse Palace Lord the most was that Zhao Feng didn't seem to have any desire to kill. In fact, he seemed to be unconcerned. Zhao Feng focused on training himself and consolidating his mental energy while cultivating the Wind Lightning Stone Tablet. Brat, I won't play with you anymore. As long as you're still in the cloud area, you won't be able to escape the Iron Dragon Alliance. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord wanted to retreat. The injury to his soul from the Wind Lightning Eye Flame started to show. In terms of speed, his opponent had the upper hand and was completely playing with him. The initiative was in Zhao Feng's hands, so the Blood Corpse Palace Lord wisely retreated. You want to run? It won't be that easy. Zhao Feng laughed lightly, and his figure flashed across the sky as he chased after the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two powerful auras, one in front and one behind, passed through the clouds and into the forests and rivers, causing dust to tremble. They're finally gone. Lin Tong, who was in the mountain, was covered in sweat. He concealed his aura and prepared to escape. However, the moment he moved, he felt a weight on his shoulder. Meow meow. A silver-gray thieving cat slightly bigger than a palm stood on his shoulder, and a whip covered in blood-colored runes wrapped around his body. What does that Zhao Feng want by keeping me here? Lin Tong's heart went cold. He couldn't move after being bound by the mystic snake blood whip, and he was about to turn around and use an eye bloodline technique. Pa! A cat's paw slapped Lin Tong's face, leaving a burning red mark. Not only that, although the strength of the cat's claw wasn't too strong, there was an indescribable dizziness that made Lin Tong feel dizzy and disoriented, completely unable to find his bearings. At the same time, Zhao Feng chased after the Blood Corpse Palace Lord for dozens of miles. Those at the true Lord rank could fly 100 or 200 miles, and it wasn't hard for them to fly for 1,000 or 2,000 miles. Zhao Feng didn't chase after victory, and he continued to comprehend the Wind Lightning Stone Tablet. Woob, a layer of azure wind started to form around his body, as if it was a transparent barrier. In this state, the resistance against Zhao Feng's flight decreased. Qiao. Layers of electric waves blossomed from the soles of his feet, creating an invisible force field. His flight prowess increased by another level. These laws seemed to be compatible with heaven and earth. The Wind Lightning Stone Tablet is as deep as the ocean. I can't comprehend even 1% of the inheritance in a short amount of time. Half of Zhao Feng's mind was immersed in the tattered world of Wind Lightning. With the god's spiritual eye, he could multitask and memorize everything he saw. Of course, This was also because the Blood Corpse Palace Lord wasn't several levels higher than Zhao Feng. Or else Zhao Feng wouldn't be able to multitask. Brat! You only have yourself to blame. So don't blame me for paying any price. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord gritted his teeth, and his expression was extremely grim. Zhao Feng, who was hot on his heels, suddenly felt a violent aura attack him. Blood corpse burning. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's body started to burn and release a bright blood-colored light that illuminated everything within 10 miles. In an instant, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's aura rose. With the naked eye, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord seemed to have turned into a blood-colored sun. A cold and domineering fiendish light surged out and engulfed everything within a mile. Chiao! The light formed by the Blood Corpse burning void was as fast as lightning as it charged towards Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's heart jumped. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's battle power was probably comparable to Yi Yinyu and Zhuang Wan'er. At this moment in time, Zhao Feng's eye bloodline was restricted and his cultivation hadn't reached the true lord rank yet, so he was at a disadvantage in a head-on clash. At this critical moment, Zhao Feng didn't lose his calm. Break! Zhao Feng's left eye suddenly turned into a freezing pond. At the same time, a layer of ice-blue blood appeared in his body and started to circulate in a strange path. Suddenly, Zhao Feng's blue hair blew in the wind as a tall figure appeared behind him. It had a crown on its head and a black sword in its hand. Below it was a throne of ice. After the sacred True Dragon gathering and the Purple Saint ruins, Zhao Feng's bloodline was much stronger than before. Ice lightning raging dragon. Zhao Feng thrust out his palm, and wind and lightning boomed. The figure behind him waved the black sword in its hand. A soul-penetrating cold tempest assaulted Xiao Chen's face, forming a berserk wind dragon made of interweaving ice and lightning, rampaging and tyrannical. Back in the Purple Saint ruins, Zhao Feng had used this move to send the Wicked Teeth trio flying. But now, Zhao Feng's cultivation, technique, inheritance, and bloodline usage were all on a whole new level. Bam! 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 The two forces intertwined. About half a breath later, the cold blood-colored light seemed to have the upper hand and pressed toward Zhao Feng. After all, the Blood Corpse burning was the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's life-saving technique, and he had to pay a big price to use it. Bam! Bam! Zhao Feng's figure retreated 100 or 200 yards as his blue hair blew in the wind. I change. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye changed once more and formed a patch of blue water. I wonder how strong the eye of water is. Zhao Feng quickly circulated the serene blue water within his body. Normally, the power of water was better at defense. Who knew what the corresponding bloodline power would be like? Oh! A beautiful rippling blue screen appeared around Zhao Feng's body and covered his entire body. It was like a dream water world that flashed with lightning and wind. Shoo! The light of blood-colored light hit the blue water screen and created a ripple. There was no explosion, and it seemed abnormally calm. Zhao Feng's figure seemed to be in the deep ocean and didn't move. What was even more incredible was that the ripple created by the blue water screen had mysterious lines that seemed to be flowing back to the ancient times. This power was even more encompassing than the Frost family bloodline. It absorbed the Blood Corpse Palace King's secret art as much as possible. Chapter 457. In the air. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's body released a dazzling blood-colored light, as if he was a blood-colored sun. Pew 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 pew, a dominating bloody light swept across everything within a mile radius. On the other side, Zhao Feng's blue hair blew in the wind as a deep blue screen of water appeared around him and absorbed the blood-colored light. At this moment, although Zhao Feng was on the passive side, he seemed to be standing in the middle of the ocean, as calm as a lake. The bloodline power of the Eye of Water does indeed specialize in defense. The result was within Zhao Feng's expectations. In reality, ice and water were the same type of power. The only difference was their form. If it was before the god's spiritual eyes change, Zhao Feng probably wouldn't be able to block the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's attack head-on. It's not that simple. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's dark and raspy voice sounded from the blood-colored sun. Chiu! Suddenly, the blood-colored sun formed by the Blood Corpse Palace Lord charged at Zhao Feng with speed 2 to 3 times faster than normal. This protector blood corpse doesn't want to live. Zhao Feng's heart shook as his body went cold. He felt a sense of danger. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's current state was similar to burning his chi of true spirit, but it was more stable under the Blood Corpse burned state. Shwa! A ripple of water appeared on Zhao Feng's body as he quickly retreated and circulated his bloodline power and chi of true spirit to the maximum. Die! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's cold face twisted as he gritted his teeth and thrust his arm forward. Crack! A blood-colored light blossomed as one of the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's arms broke off and turned into a pillar of blood that shot towards Zhao Feng. What? Zhao Feng jumped up in fright as the god's spiritual eye locked onto him. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord had sacrificed an arm to unleash a terrifying move that surpassed his own cultivation. Blood Corpse broken arm. The broken arm turned into a pillar of blood that shot into the sky. A bright blood-colored light accompanied by scarlet-purple lines spread across the sky. Not good. Scarlet Moon secret technique. Even Elder Su, who was far away, sensed such a powerful attack and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for Zhao Feng. At the critical moment, Zhao Feng opened his god's spiritual eye and controlled the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's move to the extreme. However, among all the moves in the world, only speed was unbeatable. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's terrifying speed exceeded his own level. Those at the true Lord rank couldn't dodge it unless they were at Lu Tiany's level. Zhao Feng's mind could keep up, but his body was struggling. Shoo! The pillar of blood brushed past Zhao Feng's body and passed by him. Pop! The magnificent deep blue water curtain on the surface of Zhao Feng's body rippled, suddenly dimmed, and broke with a crack. Fortunately, the water bloodline's powerful defense helped Zhao Feng absorb most of the impact. Bang! Zhao Feng's body flipped in the air, and he was forced back dozens of feet. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and he barely managed to stabilize his body. Injured, Zhao Feng's expression was slightly grim as he calmed his blood flow. He didn't expect the Blood Corpse Palace Lord to give up an arm and pay a heavy price to counterattack. Zhao Feng's injuries weren't light, but his expression didn't change. No matter how heavy his injuries were, he had the life-returning grass and the elixir of life, which was equivalent to a second life. Suddenly, Zhao Feng felt an abnormality in his body and the power of his water bloodline. A layer of blue water flowed through Zhao Feng's body like the rain of spring and moistened his organs. Zhao Feng could only feel that his injuries were quickly recovering. The most obvious was the wounds on his body, which were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. There wasn't even a scar left. That was great. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. Although the power of the water bloodline didn't have the speed reduction of ice, it specialized in defense, healing, and healing. This bloodline ability was used to its fullest on Zhao Feng. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's bloodline also had a similar healing ability. However, the healing ability of Zhao Feng's water bloodline was clearly stronger than the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's. This brat's bloodline can change between ice and water. This healing ability, how is it possible? Waves rose in the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's heart. The change in the god's spiritual eye allowed Zhao Feng's eye bloodline power to change between ice and water. Zhao Feng's bloodline power was a byproduct of the god's spiritual eye. His bloodline power had turned ice into water. Not only was his defense even stronger, it also had incredible nourishing and healing abilities. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord had paid a great price to give Zhao Feng injuries, but the latter recovered in the blink of an eye. My injuries have healed. Zhao Feng was overjoyed and couldn't suppress it. In comparison, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's face was purple, and his expression was dark and ugly. How is this possible? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord almost spat out blood. However, he didn't lose his mind. He used the remaining power of the Blood Corpse burn to turn into a bloody mist and escape. At this moment, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord had lost an arm and paid a great price, But he hadn't been able to cause any real damage to Zhao Feng. He couldn't calm down, and he felt helpless. Zhao Feng floated in the air and didn't immediately give chase. The water bloodline has good healing abilities. I wonder if the god's spiritual eye can heal injuries to the soul? Zhao Feng thought about it. Most of the theories behind his eye bloodline techniques were based on the ball of ice soul and the dark eye incomplete page. The ball of ice soul had led Zhao Feng to the door of the ancient Tao of the soul, which allowed him to heal the soul. Of course, this was just one of Zhao Feng's thoughts. He needed to find out more about his eye bloodline techniques. A few breaths later, a smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face as he watched the Blood Corpse Palace Lord leave. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord let out a breath. Why isn't this Zhao Feng chasing anymore? If Zhao Feng chased after him, the result would be unknown. However, one thing was certain. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord had lost an arm, and his battle power was greatly reduced. The situation was very bad for him. So, a while later, the sound of flying could be heard. The newcomer was an elder with white eyebrows. It was Old Su, and he let out a breath when he saw that Zhao Feng was fine. He killed an entire group led by a palace lord of the Iron Dragon Alliance by himself. It's hard to imagine that he's a prodigy from the cloud area. Old Su sighed with a complicated expression. In the end, he had still underestimated this youth. Seeing that Zhao Feng was fine, Old Su knew that his worries were unnecessary. If the two of us teamed up just then, we still had a high chance of killing the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. Old Su couldn't help but say regretfully. If he knew that Zhao Feng was so strong, Old Su would have stayed and killed the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. If the Iron Dragon Alliance lost a true Lord rank Palace Lord, it would be a big blow. I'm not interested in killing him right now. I'll play with the Iron Dragon Alliance this time. Zhao Feng's eyes squinted as he watched the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's figure disappear into the sky. When Elder Su heard this, he immediately rolled his eyes and was speechless. It seemed that Zhao Feng was still holding back. From what he said, it wouldn't be hard for him to kill the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. Thinking about it, Zhao Feng didn't even use his 2 true Lord rank ghost corpses. This youth had returned from an inheritance, and his soul was as vast as the ocean. His eye bloodline was unfathomable. Just how many more hidden cards did he have? Old Su couldn't help but smile bitterly. He couldn't guess Zhao Feng's intentions. Killing the Blood Corpse Palace Lord won't change the overall situation much. My goal is to destroy the Iron Dragon Alliance. Zhao Feng's heart was calm. So, Zhao Feng and Old Su talked for a while before returning. Old Su, I'll be returning to the 13 countries now. Zhao Feng said his goodbyes. Zhao Feng wouldn't directly join the Dragon Killing Alliance or lead it. Zhao Feng only needed the information network of the Dragon Killing Alliance, as well as to clean up the mess and take care of the aftermath. A while later, Zhao Feng landed near a cliff. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its mystic snake blood whip and threw the bound Lin Tong in front of Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng, Lin Tong hiccuped. At this moment, Zhao Feng was calm and indifferent. He had returned unscathed. Lin Tong's heart shook. Zhao Feng hadn't been injured in the battle with the Blood Corpse Palace Lord at all. From this, one could imagine that the Blood Corpse Palace Lord was at a disadvantage. Where did you get your inheritance and new eye bloodline technique? Zhao Feng asked. Lin Tong's heart trembled as he struggled. Your eye bloodline can't resist me at all. I can get the answer I want from you without any effort. Zhao Feng said slowly. You. Lin Tong gritted his teeth. He didn't dare to doubt Zhao Feng's words at all. Their eye bloodlines and attainments weren't on the same level. Of course, Lin Tong didn't know that Zhao Feng didn't dare to use his eye bloodline technique right now. He had to wait until he went to sleep. What's your relationship with the Moon Demon Palace? Zhao Feng said coldly. Moon Demon Palace? How do you know about the Moon Demon Sacred Palace? It's the core sacred land of the Scarlet Moon Inheritance. Lin Tong's expression changed dramatically. Scarlet Moon Inheritance? You came back from the Scarlet Moon Inheritance? Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. No wonder Lin Tong's cultivation and eye bloodline had increased so much. He had entered one of the 4 great inheritances, the Scarlet Moon Inheritance. However, Scarlet Moon demonic religion, Scarlet Moon Inheritance, and Moon Demon Palace. What was the relationship between these three? Half a month later, in a desolate desert, whoosh, a dim blood-red radiance fell into a huge and awe-inspiring ancient castle in the desert. The blood-colored light landed on the ground and revealed the weak figure of the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. At the same time, a large blood-blue bird descended from the sky. The blood-blue bird's aura was strong and had reached the true mystic rank. True Lord Taishao, it's you? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's footsteps paused as he looked at the two figures on the blood-blue bird. So, two figures jumped down from the blood-blue bird. One of them was a black-robed youth who held a metal fan. His skin gave off a cold metallic aura. I just came back from the sacred True Dragon gathering. Blood Corpse Palace Lord, what happened to you? Why are you so heavily injured? This black-robed youth was True Lord Taishao. 2 years ago at the Dragon Concealing Lake, he had forced the upper echelon elders of the 12 clans to sign a blood contract. Next to True Lord Taishao was a black-robed youth with an expressionless face. Chapter 458. In the middle of the desert, a huge and gloomy castle had merged with the yellow sand. Piles of bones could be seen everywhere in the surroundings. It was a ghastly sight. In front of the castle, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord and the two people on the blood-blue bird met. True Lord Taishao was full of surprise as he looked at the ruffled Blood Corpse Palace Lord. Not only was the latter heavily injured, he had also lost an arm. The black-robed youth on the side was also surprised and clucked his tongue. This Blood Corpse Palace Lord from the Scarlet Moon demonic religion is famous for being cunning and vicious. His status is one of the highest amongst the 4 palace lords. When did he end up like this? Blood Corpse Palace Lord, who injured you like this? Under True Lord Taishao's questioning, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord finally spoke with hatred and told what had happened in a few sentences. Of course, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord didn't say much about how he was defeated, as if he didn't want to mention such a thing in front of True Lord Taishao, who was also a palace lord. Although the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's words were simple, True Lord Taishao could tell how intense the situation was from the small amount of information. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord led 2 elites from the sub-palaces, and they were all slaughtered? Even the Blood Corpse Palace Lord was heavily injured and only managed to escape. All of this was done by a youth. True Lord Taishao and the expressionless youth's faces were filled with shock. If it was an older True Lord rank who could do this, they could barely accept it. However, the person who did all of this was just a youth. When did such a monstrous genius appear in the cloud area? Who's that youth? True Lord Taishao didn't seem to believe it. He had just returned from the sacred True Dragon gathering and had seen all kinds of geniuses. A nobody called Zhao Feng. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord said angrily before turning around and leaving, unwilling to talk about it. Zhao Feng. What? It's him. The expressions of True Lord Taishao and the expressionless youth changed dramatically as they exclaimed. It was obvious that the name Zhao Feng had given the two a great shock. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's footsteps paused as he squinted his eyes with a weird expression. Do you know this brat? Not only do I know. It seemed that Sir Blood Zombie didn't understand the situation. He wasn't a nobody. On the contrary, he's already a heaven's favorite whose name shakes the entire continent. True Lord Taishao's tone was solemn as he let out a breath. After returning from the sacred True Dragon gathering, True Lord Taishao and True Lord Taishao understood Zhao Feng very well. What was going on? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's expression darkened. True Lord Taishao didn't hesitate anymore and told him about Zhao Feng's performance in the sacred True Dragon gathering. During this process, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's expression was extremely colorful. In the end, it was filled with shock. Hiss! The Blood Corpse Palace Lord sucked in a cold breath. He never thought that the young man he fought with would be the heaven's favorite of this era. This generation's sacred True Dragon gathering was at its peak. Zhao Feng and Yu Tianhao were called the overwhelming prodigy kings. They surpassed countless geniuses of dozens of generations and made history pale. Maybe only legendary figures like the Scarlet Moon Patriarch and Sword Saint Yi Wuxia could compare to these two overwhelming prodigy kings when they were young. I didn't think that this brat's strength would increase so dramatically after returning from the inheritance. True Lord Taishao sighed. However, thinking about how the other overwhelming prodigy king, Yu Tianhao, had reached the early stage True Lord rank after returning to the continent and made the hearts of normal True Lord ranks shake, True Lord Taishao understood. Facing such a terrifying overwhelming prodigy king, True Lord Taishao and the Blood Corpse Palace Lord both felt that the situation was troublesome. One or two True Lord ranks probably won't be able to kill this brat. We need to team up with several True Lord ranks in order to have any hope. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's hateful expression was slowly replaced by solemnity. Knowing what Zhao Feng had done in the sacred True Dragon gathering, the Blood Corpse Palace Lord felt slightly better. If we can't kill a genius of this level, the threat he poses in the future is immeasurable. We need to plan carefully. If we want to have 100% chance, it's best if we can invite the division leader. True Lord Taishao suggested. Division leader? The Blood Corpse Palace Lord's face instantly revealed deep respect. He was just a protector of a subdivision in the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, and his status was just below the chapter leader. However, in the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, only those at the division leader level could be considered to be in the upper echelon. In the past, the Scarlet Moon demonic religion had 12 divisions and 108 subdivisions that had almost destroyed the entire continent. At their peak, the 12 divisions could even fight against the 10 great clans of the continent. Both True Lord Taishao and the Blood Corpse Palace Lord didn't doubt that if they could invite the division leader, killing Zhao Feng wouldn't be a problem at all. However, for a trivial genius junior, inviting a Hall Master level big shot of Qi, Yu was simply making a big fuss over a minor issue. Doing so might even cause the Hall Master to be displeased. The division leader has been recovering his strength for the past 2 years. We can't ask him to take action until the very last moment. Furthermore, the Iron Dragon Alliance has 4 palace lords, and the hidden forces of the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. As long as we don't face the 10 great clans, we don't need to be afraid of anything. The Blood Corpse Palace Lord shook his head. Although Zhao Feng was strong, his threat was only at the True Lord rank. That's right. We need to contact the 2 palace kings, Nether Dragon and Baiji, as soon as possible. True Lord Taishao nodded his head. So. The 3 figures quickly tore through the air and flew into the castle. In the air, True Lord Taishao's footsteps suddenly stopped. Bei-moi, if I remember correctly, that brat called Zhao Feng seems to come from the same clan as you. True Lord Taishao's eyes were emotionless. As soon as this was said, a sharp light flashed through the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's eyes as he looked at the silent old-fashioned youth. This black-robed youth was Bei-moi of the Broken Moon clan, who had returned from the sacred True Dragon gathering. Hearing this, Bei-moi smiled bitterly and nodded his head helplessly. Several days later, on the border of the 2 strong countries, near a small river. How long did I sleep for? A lazy voice sounded. With a whoosh, a blue-haired youth climbed out of the sand and shook off the sand on his body. 25 days. Lin Tong, dressed in black, thought for a while and said solemnly. Ever since he was captured by the little thieving cat, Lin Tong had become a prisoner. After saying goodbye to Old Su, Zhao Feng headed toward the 13 countries. However, less than half a day later, Zhao Feng fell asleep once again. In this period of time, Lin Tong waited on the side and didn't dare to make any strange movements. Lin Tong knew the weird abilities of the little thieving cat. It could appear out of nowhere at any time and make him dizzy. Lin Tong's fear of the little thieving cat was far greater than his master Zhao Feng. I can't stay here any longer. Zhao Feng stretched and summoned the azure sharp swallow from his ancient metal ring. When Zhao Feng woke up this time, he felt that the pain from his left eye had lessened to the point where it was almost undetectable. He was sure his eye bloodline's condition had stabilized. However, in the space of his left eye, the pond was still close to 100 feet as it spun. Zhao Feng understood that he was only half a step away from the god's spiritual eye. The change between ice and water was just a small transition, and there wasn't much of a change in quality. Furthermore, Zhao Feng felt that his cultivation could break through to the true lord rank at any time, and he didn't need to purposely go into seclusion. If I can break through to the true lord rank, my battle power and foundation will increase. However, I need to return to the Broken Moon clan as soon as possible. Zhao Feng sat on the azure sharp swallow and soared into the clouds. On the azure sharp swallow was the captive Lin Tong. Lin Tong. Zhao Feng's left eye started to ripple. Lin Tong hiccuped, and the next instant, he felt a strong surge of mental energy from Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye drill into his soul. No. Lin Tong struggled in panic. He was proficient in the eye bloodline, especially when it came to the mental aspect. He naturally understood the importance of the soul. The soul was the soul of a human, the origin of all living beings. Once the soul was tainted, the result would be unimaginable. However, Zhao Feng's power didn't allow him to resist. Dark Heart Seed. The ripple in Zhao Feng's left eye twisted and shot out a dark blue droplet the size of a sesame seed. Qiao. The mysterious dark blue droplet instantly merged into Lin Tong's soul. This dark heart seed will monitor your every move, including your thoughts and consciousness. You won't be able to escape my senses within 10,000 miles. Zhao Feng smiled faintly. A soul technique like the dark heart seed came from the ball of ice soul and the dark eye incomplete page. The ball of ice soul contained the knowledge of the ancient Tao of the ice soul, which gave Zhao Feng some understanding of the soul and allowed him to absorb the essence of the Tao of the ice soul. The dark eye incomplete page was only an incomplete page. Although Zhao Feng couldn't use it to learn the legendary dark eye of death, it still contained many sinister and vicious theories of eye techniques. Dark heart seed? What do you want me to do? Lin Tong felt uneasy and fearful. Something had entered his soul, but he couldn't reject it and didn't dare to do so. The dark heart seed that Zhao Feng used was similar to the ghost mark that the mysterious skeleton had left on him in the ancient temple. However, the dark heart seed that was cast through the god's spiritual eye was much more dangerous. At a certain distance, Zhao Feng could even detonate the dark heart seed and kill Lin Tong. I need a servant when I return to the cloud area. You who has an eye bloodline are perfect. Otherwise, do you think you'd be able to live until now? Zhao Feng smiled coldly. Hearing this, Lin Tong's heart went cold. Compared to humiliation, he was more worried about his future and death. Zhao Feng's meaning was that he felt that Lin Tong had some value, and that was why he kept him alive. If he didn't have any value, Lin Tong would probably end up like the other members of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Of course, Zhao Feng didn't just keep Lin Tong as a servant. He also wanted to understand Lin Tong's eye bloodline and how to use it. After all, up until now, Zhao Feng hadn't found a suitable eye bloodline. Several days later, the azure sharp swallow carried Zhao Feng and finally entered the 13 countries. Chapter 459. Morning Broken Moon Clan. The Sky Moon Mountain was covered in mist all year round, and under the light of the sun, it gave off a dazzling glow. The mountain was verdant, and numerous pavilions and palaces stood towering there, causing them to seem luxurious and imposing. The buildings on the Sky Moon Mountain were even more luxurious than 2 years ago, and there were many figures of disciples going in and out. It wasn't hard to find them. After the new clan master Haiyun took the position, the Broken Moon clan's strength and scale had increased day by day. Compared to 2 years ago, the clan seemed to have changed. Mid-air, the ancient blue floating crest palace was surrounded by a layer of blue lightning, which made it seem mysterious and grand, as if it was in an ancient legend. Of the entire Broken Moon clan, only the floating crest palace's aura was dim, as if it had been forgotten by the world. At the entrance of the mountain, "Who's there? How dare you enter the Broken Moon clan?" The 2 disciples guarding the mountain coldly stared at the young man. The young man was in his early 20s and was extraordinarily handsome, but his expression was filled with fatigue and loneliness. You can't even recognize me?" The young man snorted coldly. His chi and blood were masculine, and there was a formless might that stirred up a gust of wind and sand. "Ah!" The 2 disciples guarding the entrance exclaimed in unison. They were so intimidated by the powerful aura that they were unable to move. The aura of the man in front of them had touched the true spirit realm, meaning he was at least half-step true spirit realm. Brother Yonggan. One of the disciples at the third sky of the ascended realm had a change of expression as he said fearfully, "Brother Yonggan?" The other disciple also jumped up in fright. Under the lead of Clan Master Haiyun, the Broken Moon clan's expansion speed is fast. I've only left for a year, and I've already seen so many new faces. Yonggan let out a self-mocking laugh as he walked in. The two guarding disciples looked at each other, unable to hide the shock on their faces. Brother Yonggan returned at this time? Half a month ago, First Elder was punished by Clan Master Haiyun and the Regulations Elder. I heard that he's under house arrest now. Shoo, this isn't something we low-level disciples can discuss. The two guarding disciples sent Yonggan into the clan with their eyes. On the way, Yonggan greeted some familiar disciples and elders of the clan. But for some reason, Yonggan felt that something was wrong and felt many strange gazes. An hour later, in a relatively old mansion on the mountain. How could this be? I've only been away for a year, but Master has been punished to face the wall and reflect on his mistakes for 2 years? Who in the Broken Moon clan has the authority to punish First Elder? Yonggan's face was filled with anger as he roared. Opposite him, the silver-haired Granny Luyue smiled bitterly. Right now, Clan Master Haiyun is extremely strong and has the trust of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Not long ago, Sect Master Haiyun teamed up with the Enforcement Elder and 2 of his trusted elders to put the Great Elder under house arrest. Preposterous. Even with Yonggan's calm personality, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. What right does he have? 2 years ago, Zhao Feng was wanted by Sect Master Haiyun for being a traitor. Fortunately, Grand Elder made preparations beforehand and arranged for Zhao Feng's parents, the previous Sect Master, and many other people related to this. Clan Master Haiyun still hasn't forgotten about this. Recently, he's heard news that Zhao Feng has returned to the cloud area. Granny Luyue sighed. Brother Zhao Feng? You're saying that he's returned to the cloud area? Yonggan suddenly exclaimed and said excitedly. After the sacred True Dragon gathering, Yonggan's excitement had turned into loneliness. After the sacred True Dragon gathering, he didn't see Zhao Feng return from the inheritance. But now, he heard news that Zhao Feng had returned to the cloud area. This is the latest news. Clan Master Haiyun was furious and ordered the 13 countries to hunt down Zhao Feng. Granny Luyue's voice was filled with worry. Great. Brother Zhao, I hope you can return safely. Yonggan couldn't suppress the joy and excitement on his face. Granny Luyue was surprised. She suddenly remembered Yonggan's true reason for going to the sacred True Dragon gathering. Did you see Brother Zhao at the sacred True Dragon gathering? Granny Luyue asked. Just as Yonggan was about to speak, a commotion came from outside. Yonggan, why aren't you coming out to receive the clan's punishment? A cold and stern voice came from outside. Outside the elder's palace, a few familiar true disciples were standing at the entrance, glaring like tigers watching their prey. Yuanji? Quanchen? What's the meaning of this? Yonggan walked out and looked at the group of disciples. Many of these disciples were familiar faces such as Yuanji, Quanchen, and Lu Hu. Most of them were from the opposing side. Yonggan, you didn't follow the clan rules and left the clan for a year. As the head disciple, I have the right to punish you. Yuanji stood with his hands behind his back with a cold expression. After Zhao Feng, Bei Moi, and Yonggan left, Clan Master Haiyun's second disciple, Yuanji, became the new head disciple. Yonggan had left the clan for the past year, and obviously didn't have the chance to become the head disciple. Left the clan? I was ordered by First Elder to go out for a year. What right do you have to punish me? Yonggan stood in front of the door and roared. In terms of reputation and strength, Yonggan suppressed the disciples below. Head disciple Yuanji was only at the 7th sky, and Quanchen was only at the 6th sky. Comparatively speaking, their cultivation speed wasn't bad. However, compared to Yonggan, they were still lacking. After all, Yangon had returned from the sacred True Dragon gathering, and his knowledge had expanded. Martial nephew Yang, your master was punished by the disciplinary hall to face the wall for 2 years. Let alone a junior like you. A dignified and vigorous voice came from the distant mountains. So, a green-robed old man holding a scepter descended from the sky amid surging winds and waves, exuding a majestic aura. Regulations, Elder. A commotion broke out below, as the disciples of the various sects bowed. The newcomer was the Regulations Elder, who had punished Zhao Feng after the Floating Crest trial. The reason was because Zhao Feng had kicked the Regulations Elder's disciple Lu Hu out. At this point in time, Lu Hu was amongst the core disciples next to Yuan Ji and Quan Chun as he stared coldly at the returning Yang Gan. Regulations Elder. Yang Gan felt a powerful and domineering true spirit aura. The Regulations Elder's cultivation had reached the late stages of the true human rank, and wasn't something a mere half-step true spirit realm could compare to. Regulations Elder. It wasn't Yang Gan's fault that he left the clan. It was First Elder's order. I hope you can be lenient. Granny Luwe smiled bitterly. For a mere disciple, who had left the sect to make the powerful enforcement elder personally make a move, wasn't this making a mountain out of a molehill? Seeing that it's your first time, and that it wasn't your own will, I'll be lenient. From today onwards, you will lead a team to complete 49 clan missions for free. The Regulations Elder's expression calmed down. Yang Gan was about to explode, but was stopped by Granny Luwe. Calm down. You didn't make a big mistake, so the Regulations Elder can't do anything to you. However, if you act rashly, he'll just say that you offended an elder, and you'll lose a layer of skin. Yang Gan, are you willing to accept this small punishment? A cold and dignified voice sounded. Disciple is willing. Yang Gan suppressed his anger and killing intent, as he accepted the 49 clan missions. 3 days later, Yang Gan led a group, and walked out of the central division. Sister Ran, Brother Lin, Brother Yang. I'm sorry. Yang Gan looked behind him, and couldn't help but smile bitterly at these familiar faces. Ran Xiaoyuan, Lin Fan, Yang Qingshan and company were all on good terms with Zhao Feng. Ran Xiaoyuan was the former clan master's core disciple. If it wasn't for the fact that they had lost First Elder's protection, they wouldn't have been sent to this group. Brother Yang, I'm worried that Clan Master Haiyan won't let you go so easily. Take the chance to run when you're on a mission. Lin Fan suggested. In the past, Lin Fan and Zhao Feng had entered the inner clan from the outer clan, and participated in the Floating Crest trial together. And now, Lin Fan's cultivation had reached the 4th and 5th sky of the Ascended Realm thanks to Zhao Feng's care. I can't run and I don't even have the chance to run? Yang Gan raised his head. In the clouds, there was a small black dot in the sky above the group. Is a small group worth 2 half-step true spirit realm, and several experts at the 7th sky monitoring them? Not long after, Yang Gan led the group, and walked out of the clan. Right at this moment, several ear-piercing sounds streaked across the sky. Experts at the true spirit realm. Several at the true spirit realm. The members of the group couldn't help but exclaim. In their eyes, only experts at the true spirit realm could fly freely in the sky. It was extremely rare to see several experts at the true spirit realm moving out at the same time. A black-robed youth amongst the true spirit realm experts suddenly stopped. So, the sound of air flying was accompanied by a powerful aura of the true spirit realm, as the black-robed youth descended. Such a young true spirit realm. The Broken Moon clan disciples nearby all held their breaths. It's you. Bei moi. Yang Gan and company including Yang Qingshan couldn't help but exclaim. The black-robed youth had an expressionless face as his eyes scanned across the group, and paused slightly on Yang Qingshan's face. Back then, Bei moi, Yang Qingshan and Zhao Feng were all disciples of Lord Guanjuan. This time, Bei moi had already reached the true spirit realm, and his aura wasn't much weaker than the Regulations Elder. What's going on? A weird light flashed in Bei moi's eyes. Most of the people in front of him were from First Elder's side, or disciples that had a good relationship with Zhao Feng. Yang Gan harumphed coldly. He didn't have a good impression of Bei moi. Only Ran Xiaoyuan had a downcast expression as she explained what had happened. Oh, Baimwa didn't move as he met up with the figures in the sky and entered the Broken Moon clan. Heavenly Moon Mountain, in a huge pavilion that stood out from the crowd. Hehe Baimwa, you indeed didn't disappoint me. You've returned from the sacred True Dragon Gathering, and even received the trust of the Palace Lords of the Iron Dragon Alliance. Clan Master Haiyun had a bright smile on his handsome face as he patted Baimwa's shoulder. Master, have you heard of Xiaofeng's return? According to the Iron Dragon Alliance, Xiaofeng has already entered the 13 countries and is heading toward the Broken Moon clan. This isn't good for Master, Baimwa said expressionlessly. Chapter 460. Broken Moon Clan Clan Masters Hall. Xiaofeng has already entered the 13 countries and is heading toward the Broken Moon clan. He's extremely aggressive and isn't good for Master. Baimwa's expression was as cold as usual, but he said a shocking piece of news. Beside Baimwa were several figures covered in black robes and hats. Their auras were all at the true spirit realm without a doubt. However, these black-robed figures were like death guards and didn't say a word. Do you think this little brat can kill me? Clan Master Haiyun snickered coldly. Half a month ago, I found some clues and told the Iron Dragon Alliance to send a core elder to guard the Sky Moon Mountain. Moreover, I've spent a great deal of money to invite a powerful ally. I'm just waiting for Xiaofeng to walk into my trap. Master is brilliant. You always take every possibility into account. Baimwa revealed a rare look of praise. The news of Xiaofeng returning to the cloud area hadn't spread yet. Only a small number of people knew about it. The Iron Dragon Alliance locked down information regarding Xiaofeng's battle power, especially when he defeated the Blood Corpse Palace Lord. After all, this would damage the Alliance's reputation. Of course, apart from a small number of people, the outside world didn't know that Xiaofeng had killed the Blood Corpse Palace Lord's forces. What Baimwa praised was that Sect Master Haiyun was able to react according to the clues, and even set up a trap for Xiaofeng. From this, one could see how intelligent he was. It definitely wasn't luck that Clan Master Haiyun was able to reach his current level. That's right, these friends are? Clan Master Haiyun's gaze moved toward the black-robed figures behind Baimwa. Ever since they returned, they had been standing behind Baimwa without saying a word. Reporting to Master, after Xiaofeng returned to the cloud area, he arrogantly challenged the Iron Dragon Alliance and posed a great threat to them. The upper echelons of the Alliance were extremely unhappy and ordered me to bring a few experts to wait for him. Baimwa calmly said, Good. I didn't think that you and I would be so important to the Iron Dragon Alliance. It seems like the heavens have decreed that Xiaofeng will not be able to return. The smile on Sect Master Haiyun's face became even brighter. That day, when Baimwa returned, Sect Master Haiyun held a small celebration for him. However, under the seemingly lively and relaxed appearance, the entire Heavenly Moon Mountain's formation was activated, and it was heavily guarded. Several elders of the Broken Moon clan had come out of seclusion to guard the clan. Secretly, the entire Broken Moon clan's guard had reached its highest point in several years. Some of the disciples at the bottom of the hierarchy could sense an unusual murderous aura, but on the surface, the Broken Moon clan was celebrating. This was Sect Master Haiyun's loose on the outside, but tight on the inside strategy. At the same time, Yonggan's team left the sect and started the first of the 49 punishment missions. The black dot in the clouds was a large bird that carried the experts of the Broken Moon clan. 2 at the half-step True Spirit realm, and several at the 7th sky of the Ascended realm, were monitoring the group below. This is so boring. The task given by the Enforcement Elder to supervise these brats isn't challenging at all. The Enforcement Elder said that if any one of them tries to escape, we're allowed to kill them. The large bird flew in the air and monitored the situation below. The first mission of Yonggan's group wasn't hard. On the contrary, it was very simple. The mission was to collect the excrement of a bird near the Broken Moon clan. Even outer disciples could do such a dirty and cheap mission. But Yonggan and the other inner disciples, and even core disciples, had to do it. One had to say that this was a challenge to their dignity patience and tolerance. Everyone be patient and continue. I believe that Brother Zhao will return soon and change the fate of the clan. Yonggan messaged. When Brother Zhao was mentioned, the eyes of some of the people in the group sparkled. Most of the disciples present were familiar with Zhao Feng, and even had a close relationship with him. Many of the people present had personally witnessed the rise and growth of the former number 1 genius of the 13 clans. Brother Zhao's achievements are definitely above Bei Mua's. But can Brother Zhao really change the fate of the Broken Moon clan by himself? Clan Master Haiyun has the Iron Dragon Alliance behind him. The disciples in the group were overjoyed. It's hard to say if he can change the situation, but it shouldn't be hard to change our situation. A calm and steady voice came from Lin Fan. Lin Fan was also the number 1 outer disciple, and had become allies with Zhao Feng. They had grown up together, and he had displayed his skills in the Floating Crest trial. Lin Fan understood Zhao Feng better than anyone else here. Half a day later, Yang Gan's group had finished their first mission, and were heading back to the clan to hand in their mission. Right at this moment, there was a burst of noise and panic at the mountain gate. Oh my God! That person! Quick! Report to the elders. At the entrance of the mountain, there were some figures who were clearly hiding in the dark. In the air, the pupils of the 2 half-step true spirit realms, and several cultivators at the 7th sky of the ascended realm squinted as they stared at the entrance. It's him! The expressions of the figures on the flying beast froze. At the entrance of the clan, a youth with blue hair stood with his hands behind his back with a smile that wasn't a smile as he stared straight ahead. This youth had obviously been here for a while, and he had a smile in his eyes as he inspected the clan in front of him, as if he had a special feeling. Zhao Feng, it's really him. The expressions of the people near the clan and the flying beast changed dramatically. Zhao Feng, you're wanted by Clan Master Haiyun, and you dare to come here to die? Zhao Feng, traitor, give up. The deacons and disciples of the Broken Moon clan stood on the high ground and shouted. But without a doubt, no one dared to make a move. In the Broken Moon clan, who didn't know about the miracles of this youth. Until now, the title of the number 1 genius of the 13 countries still belonged to the Broken Moon clan. Hee. Please report to Clan Master Haiyun that the traitor Zhao Feng has returned to the Broken Moon clan to admit his crimes. Zhao Feng lightly smiled and stood with his hands behind his back, his blue hair blowing in the wind. Hearing this, the crowd broke into chaos. At this moment, whether it was the disciples and deacons in the mountain gate, the experts on the demonic birds in the sky, or the teams behind them, all of them were dumbfounded. Admit his crimes? The jaws of the Broken Moon clan disciples almost dropped to the ground. Many people knew that Zhao Feng was wanted by the 13 countries, and that he had escaped from the cloud area. Since he had escaped, why would he come back to admit his crimes? Was there something wrong with him? How is this possible? Brother Zhao, he actually came back to admit his crimes. Yang Gan and company felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Just a moment ago, they were still thinking about the miracles that would happen after Zhao Feng's return. But in the blink of an eye, they saw such a scene. It was as if they had fallen from heaven to hell. They seemed to sense something. Zhao Feng suddenly turned around and smiled faintly at Yang Gan's group. That smile contained a warmth and friendliness that hadn't been seen in a long time. Yang Gan, Lin Fan, Yang Qingshan and company froze. Apart from Lin Fan, everyone else couldn't hide the disappointment on their faces. Brother Zhao definitely didn't really surrender. Lin Fan had a feeling that came from his understanding of Zhao Feng. Lin Fan had experienced Zhao Feng's calmness, intelligence, and unparalleled control of the situation. Brothers and sisters, we meet again. Zhao Feng's left eye glittered with a deep blue light, giving off a feeling of spring rain washing one's heart. When they saw that mysterious left eye, the members of the mission team felt an abnormally calm and steady feeling. At the same time, Sky Moon Mountain Clan Master's Hall. Reporting to the Clan Master, Zhao Feng has arrived at the clan and said that he's going to admit his crimes to Clan Master Haiyun. This shocking news instantly spread across the entire Broken Moon clan. Within the hall, Clan Master Haiyun, the regulations elder, the elders, and the division leaders all had dazed expressions. What? Admit his crimes? Are you sure you didn't get the wrong person? Baimua's mouth was wide open. Zhao Feng surrendered? You wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Apart from his blue hair and blue eyes, he's the same as Zhao Feng from back then. And that cat? One of the deacons said respectfully. That cat. Baimua's eyebrows twitched as anger rose in his heart. He was sure that the person who had come was Zhao Feng. Back then, that thieving cat had tricked him to death in the floating crest trial. Let's see what that Zhao Feng is up to. Let's go out and see. Suspicion appeared on Clan Master Haiyun's eyebrows as he stood up. A while later, Clan Master Haiyun and the upper echelon of the clan came to a tall mountain and looked down. In their vision, a blue-haired youth stood with his hands behind his back. On his shoulder was a thieving cat that was waving a white flag. Meow meow. The little thieving cat danced around happily, waving the white flag in joy. Whether it was in the mortal world or the clan world, a white flag meant surrender. This scene caused the upper echelon members of the Broken Moon clan to have weird expressions on their faces. This was especially so for Baimua. His face twitched, and the scene of the little thieving cat waving the white flag almost made him choke. Traitor Zhao Feng has returned to the Broken Moon clan to apologize to Clan Master Haiyun. Zhao Feng had a smile on his face as he walked into the clan with his hands behind his back. Stop. Traitor, since you're here to apologize, then surrender. The deacons and disciples nearby all acted as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone could see that Zhao Feng's cultivation had reached the true spirit realm, and normal people wouldn't dare to attack him. He really surrenders? Clan Master Haiyun's eyebrows furrowed. At this moment in time, Zhao Feng's calm smile was even more relaxed than before. Clan Master Haiyun felt uneasy, and used his spiritual sense to confirm that Zhao Feng's cultivation had reached the true spirit realm, but he couldn't see which three heavens Zhao Feng was at. Hee. Didn't Clan Master Haiyun put a bounty on me in the 13 countries? Now that I've returned to the clan, do you not welcome me? The smile on Zhao Feng's face was warm and gentle, giving off a harmless feeling. On the mountain, the upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan was having a short discussion. Clan Master, what's there to be afraid of? We'll set up the 8 dragon demon slaughtering array in front of the central hall. Even if that brat has the ability to flip the heavens, he won't be able to escape. This brat is courting death. How can we not welcome him? Chapter 461. On the peak of the mountain, after a short discussion, the upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan soon came to a decision. Good Zhao Feng. You've got guts. You've got guts. Since you're here to confess your crimes, I can lighten your punishment. Someone bring Zhao Feng to the central division. Haiyun Master laughed as his eyes went cold, and he waved his sleeves. As soon as he said this, several experts with cultivations ranging from the 6th and 7th sky to the half-step true spirit realm flew toward Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng smiled but didn't say anything. He raised his head and looked towards the sky. Plop, plop, plop. These figures were just about to catch Zhao Feng when their light suddenly dimmed, and they fell from the sky dead. A cold, evil, and bloodthirsty psychic aura strangely permeated the air nearby. Who's there? The upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan were shocked as they looked towards the sky. Amongst the clouds, on top of a large bird stood a cold youth covered in black. This is what happens to those who are rude to master. The indifferent youth's eyes were deep and mysterious, and there was a ball of distorted crimson black in his eyes. It was a shocking sight. What a terrifying eye bloodline. The elders of the Broken Moon clan couldn't help but hiccup. Not only was this cold youth's eye bloodline powerful, his cultivation had also reached the true mystic rank. One had to know. Apart from the 2 reinforcements, the rest of the elders of the Broken Moon clan were all at the true human rank. Wasn't that large bird the one that was supervising us? Everyone in Yang Qian's team was stunned. Not long ago, there were experts from the Broken Moon clan on top of the Yao bird to supervise their mission. In the blink of an eye, the large bird had been taken by the cold youth. Why does that person look so familiar? Some of the geniuses and outstanding talents present stared at the cold-looking youth. It's him. Bei Mua's heart jumped. Lin Tong. Yang Gan took in a cold breath. The name Lin Tong was like a nightmare in the 13-clan assembly. Other than Zhao Feng, Song Yuyue and a few other geniuses, no one else could resist Lin Tong's gaze. Back then, both Yang Gan and Bei Mua were defeated by Lin Tong and couldn't even take one move. It was to the extent that years later, Lin Tong would still leave a shadow in their hearts. On this day, Lin Tong had reappeared and his attainments far surpassed Yang Gan and Bei Mua. Lin Tong had top-tier talent and a powerful eye bloodline. It could be said that he was one of the top geniuses in the 13 countries. At this moment, when Lin Tong appeared and spoke in a domineering manner, everyone present was shocked. Lin Tong clearly belongs to the Iron Dragon Alliance and is a core member of the Scarlet Moon demonic sect. Why? Bei Mua was slightly puzzled. He and Lin Tong were both members of the Iron Dragon Alliance. However, Lin Tong's status was much higher than Bei Mua's. He had been accepted into the Scarlet Moon demonic religion and was heavily nurtured. It was said that he had even entered the Scarlet Moon inheritance. What shocked everyone even more was that the powerful Lin Tong actually referred to Zhao Feng as his master. Lin Tong, don't be rude. This time, I'm sincerely apologizing to sect leader Haiyun. Zhao Feng smiled faintly and slowly walked towards the central hall. On the way, no one dared to attack Zhao Feng. Clan Master Haiyun's eyes twinkled as he led the upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan to the central hall. Zhao Feng walked very slowly, and he saw many familiar faces on the way. Halfway up the hill, Zhao Feng, why did you come back? The eyes of the two white-bearded elders bulged out, and they were filled with shock and confusion. Old man Guan, old man Zhang. A warm smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face. He felt warmth in his heart as he thought back to when he first entered the Broken Moon clan, and how the two of them fought to take him as a disciple. Zhao Feng had learned many things from the two elders, and he now had a solid foundation in the Tao of pills and arrays. But in the end, Zhao Feng didn't choose the Tao of pills or the world of arrays. Zhao Feng, why did you come back? The two elders couldn't help but look at Zhao Feng. Back in the Broken Moon clan, the two of them had put a lot of hope in Zhao Feng. They didn't understand what Zhao Feng was doing right now. How could the two of them let a genius like Zhao Feng die like this? Don't worry, how could Zhao Feng let you down? Zhao Feng faintly smiled. After leaving behind these words, he turned and left. Elder Zhang and Elder Guan exchanged glances with each other. They were both shocked. It wasn't hard for them to see that Zhao Feng's cultivation had reached the true spirit realm, and his aura wasn't something any elder or upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan could compare to. The two of them had solemn expressions as they watched Zhao Feng walk towards the central hall. In front of the central hall, Clan Master Haiyun, the Regulations Elder, and the other elders all arrived. Above the central palace, the Floating Crest Palace, which was surrounded by lightning, suddenly lit up. Floating Crest Palace, long time no see. Zhao Feng smiled and nodded his head. An unbelievable scene appeared. The Floating Crest Palace seemed to sense something, and with a hum, the aura of lightning became stronger, as if it was welcoming a good friend. The expressions of the upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan were slightly ugly. The Floating Crest Palace was the core inheritance of the Broken Moon clan. But now, the Floating Crest Palace had sensed something. What did that mean? Ah! What an arrogant brat! He dares to charge into the heaven and earth net alone. A loud voice that shook the clouds sounded from the mountains far away. Whoosh! A purple-red burly man strode through the air, accompanied by the low whistling of the wind. The aura of the scarlet-purple large male was condensed and gave off a terrifying aura that made even the elders at the true spirit realm tremble. True mystic rank. He seems to be at the peak true mystic rank. The Regulations Elder, Granny Luyue and the other elders all took in a cold breath. 7th Core Elder. Clan Master Haiyun was overjoyed and immediately went up to welcome him. This person was one of the 2 reinforcements that Clan Master Haiyun had asked for. A few days ago, Clan Master Haiyun had heard the news of Zhao Feng's return and felt uneasy. After all, Zhao Feng's miracles had spread across the 13 countries. Who knew what path of retreat First Elder had left for Zhao Feng? Or maybe even reinforcements from strong countries. Therefore, Clan Master Haiyun had asked for help from the Iron Dragon Alliance. At that time, the 2 core elders of the Iron Dragon Alliance had been killed by Zhao Feng, and they generously sent over a core elder, who was ranked 7th. Any core elder of the Iron Dragon Alliance was an existence that Clan Master Haiyun could only dream of. Furthermore, the one they sent was the 7th core elder. Furthermore, just to be safe, Clan Master Haiyun had spent a lot of money to invite a powerful ally. Hehe. Clan Master Haiyun doesn't need to worry. A light laugh came from afar. The newcomer was a middle-aged man wearing a scholar's robe. He had a circle of silver light under his feet, and he had a crystal green bamboo sword on his back. It's Xiang Yunzi. Clan Master Haiyun was able to invite him. This Xiang Yunzi doesn't belong to any sect, but he's the most legendary wandering cultivator in the 13 countries. Many of the elders of the Broken Moon clan recognized the middle-aged man. In the world of clans, most cultivators came from clans or families. However, there were some exceptions. Even if the chance was small, there were still peak experts that could be born from wandering cultivators. Xiang Yunzi was a typical example of this. He was very popular, and had a good relationship with the other sects of the 13 sects. Under normal circumstances, Xiang Yunzi's identity in the 13 countries was like a peacemaker, and he rarely participated in the battles between clans. However, for Clan Master Haiyun to be able to invite such a wandering cultivator to the clan meant that he must have paid a heavy price. In front of the central hall, the sudden arrival of the 7th core elder and Xiang Yunzi caused the atmosphere to become tense. However, compared to the 7th core elder's domineering hostility, Xiang Yunzi was much friendlier. Xiang Yunzi smiled from ear to ear and said, "Nephew Zhao, your master Situ-mo, and I have a bit of a friendship. Since you've come to the Broken Moon clan to ask for forgiveness, I hope you can be sincere and don't make a big fuss." Zhao Feng didn't hear it and walked step by step towards the central hall. He only had one target, and that was Clan Master Haiyun. "Brat, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Let this elder take you down." The 7th core elder's body was covered in a scarlet-purple fire, and he was like a small volcano that gave off a scorching aura that could destroy a village in the next instant. The hearts of the elders and upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan trembled. The 36 core elders of the Iron Dragon Alliance were all at the true mystic rank. The top 10 all had terrifying battle power only below the true lord rank. This scarlet-purple male was ranked 7th, and was a rare body cultivator. Just his body alone could crush true mystic rank cultivators of the same rank. If they fought in close combat, even true lord ranks would be threatened. Pung! The purple and scarlet male was like a human-shaped monster that charged toward Zhao Feng with terrifying waves of heat. Soaring sky-slashing sword. A light flashed in Xiang Yunzi's eyes, and the bamboo sword on his back slashed out with a wung toward Zhao Feng. At this point in time, the 2 true mystic ranks attacked at the same time. However, the scarlet-purple male and Xiang Yunzi's figures had just moved when their hearts jumped and uneasiness came from their souls. In the air on top of a large bird, Scarlet Demon Moon Eye. Lin Tong's scarlet black eyes twisted and 2 blood-colored crescent moons appeared. Bam! Bam! 2 bloody crescents that were filled with cold, murderous, negative energy pierced through the clouds and hit the purple man and Xiang Yunzi as fast as lightning. Wah! Wah! Xiang Yunzi and the scarlet-purple male's bodies shook, and they both spat out a mouthful of blood. The two's faces went pale as they looked up in shock at the cold youth that they had ignored. 2 years later, the terrifying genius with the best talent and bloodline in the 13 nations showed his might again. What a terrifying eye bloodline technique, injuring 2 true mystic rank experts with just one glance. This Lin Tong is 10 times, or even 100 times stronger than before. The crowd broke out into chaos, especially the geniuses that had participated in the alliance banquet of the 13 countries. Baimua's heart couldn't calm down. This Lin Tong indeed entered the Scarlet Moon inheritance. He's probably almost unrivaled against those under the true lord rank. It was hard to imagine that such a terrifying genius would become Zhao Feng's servant and fighter. Chapter 462. Broken Moon Clan Central Hall. The disciples on the mountain all held their breaths in shock. At this moment in time, Lin Tong in the air became the focus of everyone's eyes. Clan Master Haiyun, the Regulations Elder, and the other elders including the two true mystic ranks were filled with wariness and fear. Two true mystic ranks had been defeated in one glance. No one could describe how terrifying this new prodigy was. One had to know. Xiang Yunzi was the most legendary cultivator in the 13 countries, and the number of people that could compare to him could be counted on one's fingers. The 7th Core Elder's strength was even more terrifying. Just his body alone could crush most true mystic ranks, and he was unparalleled under the true lord rank. These two true mystic ranks weren't even able to block one glance from Lin Tong. Lin Tong, how dare you betray the alliance and work with this brat? The 7th Core Elder wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and roared in anger. Lin Tong, Bei Moi, and the 7th Core Elder all belonged to the Iron Dragon Alliance. Of course, Lin Tong and the 7th Core Elder had higher statuses. Facing the 7th Core Elder's question, Lin Tong remained silent. However, his eyes were filled with helplessness as he glanced at the blue-haired youth below. These details obviously couldn't escape the eyes of the experts present. A terrifying prodigy like Lin Tong is willing to serve Zhao Feng? Back at the alliance banquet of the 13 clans, Zhao Feng and Lin Tong, who both had eye bloodlines, stood on opposite sides. The ancient shrine that Lin Tong was in was rumored to be a small branch of the Scarlet Moon demonic sect in the 13 nations. Back at the Dragon Concealing Lake, the ancient shrine had betrayed them. Lin Tong was definitely a trusted member of the Iron Dragon Alliance, and was even valued by the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. It wasn't hard to guess that Lin Tong was being forced. Furthermore, facing the 7th Core Elder's question, Lin Tong didn't explain. Hee, I'll only ask for forgiveness from Clan Master Haiyun. Others shouldn't interfere. A light laugh came from the blue-haired youth below. The hearts of Clan Master Haiyun and company shook. It was hard to imagine Zhao Feng's strength, if even a terrifying prodigy like Lin Tong was forced to work with him. Invisibly, the blue-haired youth in their field of vision caused everyone to be filled with suspicion, fear, and respect. No one dared to act rashly. As strong as the 7th Core Elder and Xiang Yunzi were, they felt deep fear in their hearts. They couldn't see through their opponent's strength at all. Even a servant of Zhao Feng could kill him instantly. It was even more impossible to estimate the strength of the mastermind. Thud, thud. The whole place was silent. It seemed that only the sound of the blue-haired youth's casual footsteps could be heard. Finally, at a certain moment, Zhao Feng stepped into the square in front of the central hall. He's close. That kid is about to enter the range of the formation. Sect Leader Haiyun, the 8 Dragon Demon Slaying Array is ready. The hearts of the upper echelon of the Broken Moon clan sped up. The 8 Dragons Demon Slaughtering Array was definitely their strongest trump card. This 8 Dragon Demon Slaughtering formation was constructed and strengthened by an ancient formation. Just the preparation of the formation's materials cost a lot of money and manpower. Furthermore, to activate it, we need 8 cultivators at the True Spirit Realm and 64 elites at the 6th and 7th sky of the Ascended Realm. The Broken Moon clan had already sent out 8 cultivators at the True Spirit Realm. Bei Moi was also one of the 8 cultivators at the True Spirit Realm. The formation is ready. Ha ha ha. That brat has already entered the range of the array. If he goes any closer, he'll be at the core of the array. Even a true lord rank wouldn't be able to escape unscathed. The upper echelon and reinforcements of the Broken Moon clan were overjoyed. They had absolute confidence in the power of the 8 Dragon Demon Slaughtering Array. Zhao Feng. No. Below the mountain, Old Man Zhang and Old Man Guan exclaimed. Old Man Zhang, who specialized in arrays, had participated in the creation of the 8 Dragon Demon Slaughtering Array and knew its power. Unfortunately, their warning was already too late. Zhao Feng stepped into the core of the 8-dragon demon slaughtering array. At this moment, this was the best time to activate the array. The upper echelon and reinforcements of the Broken Moon clan were overjoyed. Hehe, 8-dragon demon slaughtering array? I've heard old man Zhang mention this array when I was studying in the clan mission division. A faint laugh came from the blue-haired youth in the core of the array. What? The hearts of those from the Broken Moon clan shook as they looked at Zhao Feng in disbelief. Clan Master Haiyun's heart skipped a beat, and he felt uneasy. The youth in front of him obviously knew a thing or two about arrays. Not only did he know the existence of the 8-dragon demon slaughtering array, he had casually walked in and saw through it. At this moment, the hearts of the upper echelon and reinforcements of the Broken Moon clan trembled as a coldness spread across their bodies. The mysteriousness of the youth in front of them had reached the point where their minds were on the verge of collapsing. One of the two reinforcements, Xiang Yunzi, was filled with regret. Before being invited by Haiyun Master, he had studied the lineup of experts to deal with Zhao Feng, especially the terrifying power of the 8-dragon demon slaughtering array. However, the reality was out of his expectations. Everything was because of the unfathomable blue-haired youth. Back then, he was the #1 genius of the 13 countries and escaped to a faraway country. Now he had returned, and no one knew his true strength. Everyone, don't be scared by this brat. Let's work together and kill him, the law enforcement elder said in a fierce manner. 8-dragon demon slaughtering array, open. The 8 cultivators at the True Spirit realm circulated their chi of True Spirit, and the 64 experts at the 6th and 7th sky of the Ascended realm all supported the array. Instantly, 8 dragon-shaped chains of different colors appeared, each of them dozens of yards long. They were like 8 ancient dragon-locking chains that instantly locked down the area Zhao Feng was in. The 8-dragon demon slaughtering array is so powerful. Each of the 8 dragon-shaped chains is comparable to the peak true mystic rank. The upper echelon members of the Broken Moon clan trembled with excitement. Many people had never seen such a grand ancient formation in their lives. It was an eye-opener for them. Qiao, Qiao, Qiao. Zhao Feng stood where he was, the 8 dragon-shaped chains instantly sealing off all his paths of escape. It was like a prison that had him trapped in it. Qiao, bam. 2 of the dragon-shaped chains wrapped around Zhao Feng's legs. Unfortunately, if the 8 true mystic ranks teamed up, they might be able to threaten me, Zhao Feng said regretfully. His body suddenly blossomed with a layer of transparent light shield condensed from thunder patterns and wind waves. With 2 ding-ding sounds, the 2 dragon-shaped light chains were shaken off. Ding-ding-ding! Sparks flew on the barrier of wind and lightning as the 8 dragon-shaped chains hit Zhao Feng's body, but were pushed away. This 8-dragon demon slaughtering array needs the 8-dragon connecting heart. You guys aren't on good terms and haven't practiced enough, so you can only use 60 to 70% of the array's power. Zhao Feng shook his head. He slowly approached Sect Master Haiyun, who was at the center of the formation. Brat! Don't be arrogant. Clan Master Haiyun's voice was trembling. No one would have thought that Zhao Feng would be so strong that he could walk through the 8-dragon demon slaughtering array. Clan Master Haiyun, I'm here to ask for forgiveness. There's no need to be so nervous. Zhao Feng had his hands behind his back and smiled faintly. From the looks of it, he really didn't plan on taking Clan Master Haiyun's life. Suddenly, a desolate voice sounded from one end of the central plaza. This voice seemed to have a magical power that could enter one's heart. Although it was extremely soft, everyone present could hear it clearly. This voice. The expressions of Lin Tong and Bei Moi in the central hall changed. The hearts of the 8 true spirit realms, Clan Master Haiyun, the 7th core elder and company shook. At this moment, the air seemed to have frozen, leaving only the desolate voice that drilled into the soul. Shua, shua, shua. In the corner of the central plaza, 3 black-cloaked figures suddenly took off their cloaks and revealed their original appearances. 3 terrifying auras spread out in the central hall square. 2 males and 1 female were like the kings of hell, as they stood in front of the palace. Shua. One of the black-clothed male held a metal fan. His skin, hair, and clothes seemed to be made of metal, and gave off a cold metallic aura. Shua. Shua. A silver metal flashed in the air. Zhao Feng's footsteps froze. Behind him, the black-clothed male's eyes were cold as the metal fan in his hand released a cold light that was only an inch away from Zhao Feng's back. The light only needed to flash once, and Zhao Feng would be sliced in half. True Lord Taishao. The instant the black-clothed male appeared, the upper echelon elders of the Broken Moon clan, including Clan Master Haiyun, exclaimed, "True Lord Taishao." This name was like a nightmare that was imprinted on the upper echelon of the 13 clans. "Greetings, 3 palace lords." The 7th core elder revealed an overjoyed expression. "Yulong, Taishao, and Baiji. How is this possible?" Beimua's face was filled with shock. Before he left, the upper echelon of the alliance had told him that they would send 3 experts to the Broken Moon clan to help him deal with Zhao Feng. However, who would have thought? These 3 reinforcements were the 3 palace lords of the Iron Dragon Alliance. "Greetings, Yulong, Taishao, and Baiji." Cold sweat appeared on Lin Tong's forehead as he hovered in the air. Shua. Shua. Apart from True Lord Taishao, the other male and female formed a triangle that surrounded Zhao Feng. The one with the strongest aura, Palace Lord Yulong, had black hair and a black horn on his head. His body was covered in a layer of black scales and gave off an ancient and mysterious aura. His existence was like a nightmare from hell. On the left was Palace Queen Baiji. She wore a dreamy and luxurious dress. She had the face of an angel and the body of a devil. Her aura was strange and obscure. She also had an ethereal feeling. Every frown and smile of hers could seduce the souls of others. Beimoi, very well done. Zhao Feng indeed returned to the Broken Moon clan. Clan Master Haiyun, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been able to ambush this brat so easily. Palace Lord Yulong's black hair blew in the wind, and his voice seemed to come from the Lord of the Abyss. Time and space seemed to freeze at this moment. Everyone in the Broken Moon clan was dazed, and they didn't even dare to breathe. 3 of the 4 pillars of the Iron Dragon Alliance had appeared at the same time in the Broken Moon clan. 3 palace lords, so I was just bait. Clan Master Haiyun let out a long breath and smiled bitterly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.